in Paris to load the coffin onto the hearse from which it was taken, loaded it onto that aeroplane for that sad, sad journey to Northolt, and there is the Northolt contingent, their opposite numbers, if you like, being marched out, and they will perform the dreadful, dreadful task of carrying that coffin.
These are, of course, live pictures, yes, live pictures we're seeing.
From RAF Northolt. As we were saying earlier, this base is specially equipped to deal with royal flights, special security and so forth. It's a place that Prince Charles is very familiar with.
Okay, Mike, we interrupted you there to take those.
Well, I was just saying that what is uppermost in Mr. Blair's private thoughts, I'm told, with those that he's been speaking with during the day, is his sense of this awful, awful loss of a woman who just perhaps was beginning to find a role for herself. Of course, there was a great empathy between Mr. Blair and the Princess over this question of landmines. One of the very first things that the government did was to bring in the ban on landmines, which the previous government had decided that it didn't want to go quite that far. And so between the two of them, there was this empathy. But Mr. Blair has been talking to friends and sort of saying, look, this woman could, if that kind of thing had gone on, have been such an asset to Britain. And of course, the other thing that goes through one's mind is that Mr. Blair is a young man too, in his coming up to his mid-40s. Princess Diana at 36. The two of them, if you like, represented, did they not, a different kind of generation. Mr. Blair taking over the start of a younger generation of politicians, Princess Diana, the young figurehead, if you like, for so many people. And all of those aspirations, Mr. Blair felt, were coming forward. And so he felt that...
That is obviously
of his former wife, the Princess of Wales.
Sorry, David, I was
what are we
just going
seeing
to say,
there, Nicholas?
well, no one in this country needs telling what that vehicle in the front is. That's the hearse that will take her coffin to an undisclosed private mortuary somewhere. Behind that will be the car that will contain the Prince of Wales and possibly the Princess's two sisters, and behind that, I would guess, you know, the security people, again, of course, evident all the time. And beyond them, I imagine those are press people being lined up there. Yeah. So they will be able to see, and the plane will, I imagine from that situation that was the aircraft, we will eventually see the aircraft drawing up a short distance away, and as we were saying, there will be eight RAF pallbearers, those young men bareheaded, performing that task of carrying the coffin down from the plane.
The only recent parallel I can think of is when the Duke of Windsor's body was brought back home at a similar ceremony on the airfield at RAF Benson, also a bleak afternoon, rather like this afternoon. But of course, in a sense, you see, there's no comparison, because there was the Duke, he was an elderly man. Now we're seeing others moving forward. There is the pall-bearing party ready. The Duke was an elderly man, had come back after a long life. This is a young woman cut down at 36 years old, which those men that we're now seeing there are going to have to pick up her coffin and carry it across that airfield.
Yes, we're told there'll be 5 wreath bearers, 8 coffin bearers, and 3 escorts, and all of them will be from the Queen's Colour Squadron. There they are, standing silently and stock still, awaiting the arrival of the Royal Scot, the BAE 146 aircraft that Prince Charles is
Those young
flying
men
back home with.
Started their military career. This is one job I don't think any of them could conceive in a million years. Who would have imagined that we would be seeing that? And we're just moving along now to just going around and seeing what else, you know, everybody waiting. There's another airplane sitting there, more RAF men. I think there's the outriders that will accompany the coffin, the Metropolitan Police outriders. Everybody waiting. We've got about 11 minutes or so before that plane is due to and a flag at half-mast, as flags all over the country have been at half-mast today.
As Mike was saying there in Northolt, the whole country never really seen anything like this.
No, I don't think so. Shock and grief, all those words, but on an unparalleled scale.
Okay, well, let's catch up with developments perhaps away from RAF Northolt. Mark Webster has been monitoring what's going on in RAF Northolt. It is making its slow descent. It's gone through the clouds, a few hundred feet from the ground now.
British Aerospace 146, the Queen's flight.
The Royal Scot.
Indeed.
One can only imagine the atmosphere on board that plane. There is a shot of the awaiting press.
Eight minutes to
touchdown.
7. 8 minutes to 7. She's down.
The Princess of Wales returns home.
We're about to see, the plane is about to be lost to view in a moment. We're advised it will go out of sight. I'm not sure it's behind a building or what. Right at the end of the runway there.
Then taxi back into position.
Yes.
To
Hardly seems worth saying, but a perfect
Three-point
landing with
landing.
such a precious and awful load.
We were talking just a few moments ago about the happy meetings that had taken place at Chequers, and of course this airfield is quite close to Chequers, a matter of what, some 10 miles I suppose, or something of that sort. The airport is, Northolt is to the west of London, Chequers of course out in the Buckinghamshire countryside. You see a bit of that kind of countryside there. So all kinds of thoughts will be going through, no doubt, Tony Blair's mind as he stands on the tarmac there, of how it was that he was out in the country home, and that he met the princess, and now he, like everybody else in the country, is having to go through this awful moment.
Nick, as Mike was saying, they're practically all Royal and VIP flights use RAF Northolt.
A lot of them
Never
do,
seen
yes.
anything sorrier than this.
No, indeed not. It's just a frightful business, isn't it, seeing that plane coming in there. Just frightful. As we said, we don't know quite where the body...
It's going behind the control tower
control
now, yeah.
tower, yes, an associated building.
Will then presumably turn around. There's the tailplane.
Yeah. We don't quite know where the body is headed. We've not been told that for the moment, and indeed, of course, beyond that, the funeral arrangements are yet to be made. It's being stressed, incidentally, by Buckingham Palace that members of the family will be consulted, and we're not just talking about the royal family. We are, of course, talking about her grieving family, her brother, Earl Spencer, who spoke so passionately. And
Now, just on that, we know that
Press.
the Princess's two sisters are on board the plane. Earl Spencer is in South Africa, presumably making his way back now.
yes, that's right. Well, he indeed, and he said today, you know, I believe the press would kill her in the end. Those words are going to ring down the ears, aren't they? And the plane stopped there just a little bit out of view over that ridge. And we're talking about this funeral, as I say, the consultation with the family, whether that means that there's a possibility that it won't be quite the major national event that might have been foreseen, I really can't say. I can't imagine, frankly, that it won't be. You remember we saw the coffin in Paris covered with the royal standard. That said it all. It is to be a full royal occasion, and that's likely to involve Westminster Abbey. It's likely to involve, I think, burial at St George's, Windsor. But when you put that point to royal officials, I said to one of them just now, just before we came on air, what's happening? And they say, quite honestly, we don't know. They do not know where they're going at the moment. It's not surprising, this devastating, unexpected loss.
Mike, as we're talking there about the potential arrangements, the period of mourning, what happens to political life? Politics seem totally irrelevant. Towards the party containing the Prime Minister amongst them, waiting to, I suppose welcome isn't the right word.
For some reason the plane stopped. I was asking him about the relations between, the real relations between Diana and the Queen. He said, well, no matter what else, the Queen always maintained what he called an open door to Diana. She was always available, and I think that whatever the ups and downs of that family's life...
There the plane just going past the coffin bearers, standing rock steady.
Yes. Whatever the up and downs,
Comes to a
ups and
final
downs
halt.
of life, you know, the affection between the Queen and the basic affection between the Queen and the Princess of Wales was always there, right the way through the bad times. And
I think the party containing the Prime Minister is slightly to the right of the plane. You can see a few people just edging their way forward there. That's presumably the spot where the plane is going to come to its final halt. Apart from the RAF dignitaries that are there, of course the Prime Minister, we're also told that we have seen there George Robertson, the Defence Secretary, is there. The Lord Chamberlain, who's the head of the Queen's household, and the Lord Lieutenant of London, as part of royal protocol, he will be there too.
And now they're...
That is a long shot. There's Mr. Blair, the Prime Minister, standing in the middle of that group, containing the people I just mentioned. They're coming forward now. We can just, I don't know if you just heard it there, the plane's engines were just cut. There's the very sad sight of the hearse moving forward.
That cut of engines, Michael was talking about the precision precisely 10 minutes after landing. And
There you can see the white gloves of the 3 escorts moving forward now. Shortly the steps will be brought up to the plane. The doors will open.
And of course, presumably, we shall see Prince Charles standing on the tarmac, having to watch this. We've been talking about what's going through Mr. Blair's mind. He's been waiting at Northolt, but we no doubt will now see in a minute or two Prince Charles coming from the plane.
The pallbearers
and
advancing now. That very slow, deliberate march. Taking them towards the cargo part, I have to say that's what it is, of the plane.
There's a closer shot. Approaching the back of the plane.
The saddest duty that has ever been performed at RAF Northolt.
Those young RAF men will remember this for the rest of their lives.
We will too, don't we?
Absolutely. Just shuffling up there, absolute precision, as you were describing, Mike.
Yes, I think what we're seeing there is what I was saying earlier about the quiet dignity of this.
There is the Prince of Wales now, and with him behind... we've moved away from it, but that was the Prince of Wales, obviously, with the sisters of the Princess.
The coffin being unloaded from another part of the plane.
And here it
There
comes.
we have a glimpse of it. Just saw a wreath there, I think, caught a glimpse of some white lilies being carried past.
Such beautiful flowers, such a beautiful aroma always from them. Coffin lifted onto those broad shoulders.
Carried the short distance to the awaiting hearse.
Down smartly and the slow march about to begin. Again, all this intricate ceremony that Michael Branson talked of, this is all planned to the last detail. This sort of thing could be, I suppose, for any dignitary, but in this case it's for the most important dignitary of all ever, I would say, to be carried from a British plane on British soil. The awful homecoming of Diana, Princess of Wales. Her coffin covered by the Royal Standard, now on its way across the tarmac towards the hearse.
And the coffin bearers just going out of sight of that camera, our other camera at the scene, just picking them up now as they approach the hearse, carried out in almost complete silence, just a light breeze rippling the flag there on the coffin.
Yes, I suppose if you were there, you'd hear just that faint scraping of the boots across the tarmac. I don't think we hear much at all, apart from the distant hum of traffic reminding us that London is not far away. Busy world still going on somewhere.
There, the party containing the Prime Minister. I didn't catch sight of the Prince of Wales there, Nick. I don't know if he's standing beside him. He is, I'm told he is.
He's there, something, yes. And so to the back of the hearse.
Ah, yes, there is Prince Charles, the very far right of that group,
Yes.
standing beside one of Princess Diana's sisters.
Yes.
Mr. Blair, roughly in the middle.
The contrast could hardly be greater, could it, between this and the recent pictures that we've been seeing of the Princess and her various holidays, her various cruises, whatever the problems with the paparazzi and the press, and they started several
The
days.
royal family over the next hour or so as the nation prepares for the funeral of Princess Diana. So let's just start by filling you in on the sequence of events so far today. The exodus from Balmoral began shortly before 11 o'clock this morning. The first to leave Balmoral were the Prince of Wales and his two sons, the Princes William and Harry, of course. They were accompanied by the Princess Royal's son, Princess Anne's son, Peter Phillips, who of course has become very close to the young princes. The three princes arrived at Aberdeen Airport at about noon, about an hour after leaving Balmoral. And here we can see them boarding the plane for the hour-and-a-half flight or so to RAF Northolt in London. Nick, there you see them getting on the plane.
Yes, this
It's
airport.
very important Peter Phillips is with them as well. He, as I say, he's become very close to the young princes.
He has, yes. I was just going to say that this airport, Aberdeen, has become an absolute focal point of royal flights in and out lately. It's about an hour's drive or so from the Balmoral estate, and then planes, as I think you were saying, an hour and a half from there to London. There's no circling around, of course, for royal planes. They'll be allowed straight in, and so into Northolt, and then
Now, of course, an interesting point here that it's not normal for Prince Charles to travel with his eldest son, Prince William. Why exactly is that?
that's right. Well, there's a tradition, not really a tradition, I suppose it's a practical thing, that members of the royal family do not, as far as possible, travel too much together. The implications of something going wrong are fairly obvious. On this particular occasion, the Queen has made it known that she gave special dispensation so that the Prince of Wales could travel with his sons on this particular day. Obviously, he wants to be as close to them as possible. And she said, of course, you carry on, the three of you together. That's to say, the heir to the throne, and then the young man who will be the king after that.
And presumably much the same reason then for the Queen following on behind.
Yes, indeed. It would not be imagined that the Queen herself and the Prince of Wales would travel in the same plane. And with the Queen, don't forget, the Queen Mother is on her way to London as well. The Queen Mother, I gather, Dermot, just a small detail here, she was black veiled when she was seen going to the plane. In other words, extremely formally dressed in the style of a lady of her great age, as you would expect. The Queen, while somberly dressed, had chosen a floral headscarf.
We just saw Prince Charles boarding the plane there, just as that lorry went past, slightly obscured the view.
Well, let's just leave that scene. That, of course, was a couple of hours ago. The Prince Charles and his sons leaving Aberdeen Airport to travel to London. The Queen, as we were just saying there, travelled on a little bit behind. She was, of course, accompanied by Prince Philip and the Queen Mother and Princess Margaret. Let's just have a look at the scene from Aberdeen Airport there. Oh, this is them leaving Balmoral. This is, of course, the same route they took to go to Crathie Church yesterday and on Sunday. Prince Philip driving in the front of that Land Rover there. In the back is the Queen, Princess Margaret. Well, also in the studio with me is Ronald Allison, a former press secretary to the Queen. It all seems to be working like clockwork now and fully in tune with the nation's mood.
Yes, the message that Jeff Crawford gave on the Queen's behalf yesterday demonstrated that there was a real feeling of hurt amongst the royal family at some of the criticism that had been expressed. And of course, one keeps saying this, but everything that the Queen was doing, first and foremost, was on behalf of the two young princes. That's why they were at Balmoral, why they stayed at Balmoral, and they wanted their grandmother to be with them, and that's where she felt that she should be. I think it's excellent that the palace has responded to the various opinions that have been expressed, very forcibly by some of the papers, but equally, I think, by advisors, and no doubt the Prime Minister has had some input into this. And now I can't imagine that anybody can feel, other than that the royal family, the Queen and everybody else, is totally involved in the outpouring of grief. They were feeling it, they weren't publicly showing it. Now, or the Duke of York and Prince Edward yesterday and today, as we shall see, this will be the royal family and the people together visibly sharing the grief that previously they were sharing separately.
So from what you're saying, if you were still helping out with the Queen's press relations, you would more or less be playing it this way. Is there anything at all you would like to see done further?
No, I think it would be wrong of me from this position to say what I might or might not have done, because so many factors had to be taken into account. Not only the royal family's wishes, but the wishes of Earl Spencer and his family, and the wider family, the wider Spencer family. The wishes of the people are now being met. It's so easy to look back and say, well, of course, this should have been anticipated. We keep on saying this. Nick has been saying it regularly, and you've been expressing it, Dermot. None of us anticipated what was going to happen this week. We all knew, or if we'd been told beforehand, we would have said, yes, we will, of course we'll be saddened, it'll be unutterably awful, and so on and so forth. But I don't think any of us could have anticipated the depth and the level of the grief that's being expressed publicly by so many millions of people.
Now let's move on, look forward slightly to the Queen's live broadcast tonight at 6 o'clock. Is it normal for the Queen to talk live? She normally, we know, at Christmas pre-records her message, sometimes several days in advance.
No, it's not usual at all. When the Queen, the custom of the Christmas broadcast on radio, on the wireless as it then was started before the war, and her father very gallantly, because he found it very, very hard work to speak in public, and he kept the custom going. He missed 1938, 1939. From then onwards, throughout his reign, he broadcast on the radio every Christmas. Queen, sorry, you were...
Sorry, Ron,
yes,
just say, let's talk about that a little bit
yes,
more a bit later. Let's just, we've got pictures here now of the Queen accompanied by the Duke of Edinburgh and Princess Margaret arriving at Aberdeen Airport. You'll remember we showed them leaving Balmoral a couple of minutes earlier. That was at about 12:30, about half an hour after the three princes, Prince Charles, William and Harry, which of course means they'll be arriving in London about half an hour behind. There's Prince Philip at the wheel of the Royal Land Rover. Nick, again, just a regular scene for us now, these comings and goings from Aberdeen Airport.
Yes, indeed. I think it may have been Ron Allison said to us some time ago, you saw the Duke of Edinburgh himself at the wheel. Well, you know, having something to do on these occasions is often the best thing, you know.
Well, that was, of course, when Prince Charles on Sunday, on his way, that awful journey to Paris, drove himself from Balmoral to Aberdeen.
Absolutely right. One might expect a policeman to be doing it, or some servant of the royal household, but no, they're driving themselves. And I think that's Princess Anne, is that on just moving at the back of the tiers, isn't it? Yes, I'm sure it is.
And there's Princess... Is that Princess Margaret? There's the plane's engines are just obscuring the view.
Yes. But that is the Princess Royal going up the steps now. And the Duke of Edinburgh following her.
Duke of Edinburgh, yes.
Yes. Now, they obviously are, doesn't need to be said now, that the various officials who always travel, every member of the royal family on even the smallest journey, of course, has a police bodyguard, at least one police bodyguard with them. And all the other various officials, often military people. These are generally the equerries, military men who also accompany senior members of the royal family. It sounds unkind to say they carry their bags. They do a great deal more than that, but they do the practical things like shifting luggage around. And now one of them will be driving the Range Rovers away as well.
Okay, let's go live now to Buckingham Palace, where of course the Queen is expected to arrive in a little while. Our reporter Helen Wright is there. Helen, has the word got through to the crowds there that the Queen is on her way? Hello, Helen. I don't think Helen Wright is in contact with us. Well, Nick, clearly a sense of expectation about the royal broadcast tonight, as I was talking with Ron Allison.
Yes,
there.
Indeed. I mean, I think this is interesting point, certainly an interesting point. There's always great pressure broadcasting live, as the three of us sitting in the studio know very well indeed. I think myself this will be an extremely testing thing for Her Majesty, but the point is being made that she wants to broadcast from the heart. I think she wants the country to know that everything she says is not somehow pre-packaged. When you record something on television, I have to say, as a professional in it, it's never quite the same. You can relax just a little when you record things, and if you make a mistake, you can stop and start again. I don't think anybody's going to mind if Her Majesty makes the odd slip.
Well, I was going to say that. I just wanted to bring in Ron Allison there. As we all know, that every now and again we do make the little slips. You trip up on a word here or there. If that happens to the Queen, she's clearly not concerned about that tonight.
No. Since 1960, she's in fact recorded the Christmas broadcast. Probably the most regular live broadcast that she makes, as it were, is the State Opening of Parliament, when she reads the speech from the throne, and that is covered live by the television companies. So she's not at all inexperienced at going live. My experience of being present at the recordings of Christmas broadcasts is that the Queen does them extremely well, and that there are not retakes for any reason to do with what we might call a stumble or a fluff. But let's make no mistake about it that today this message that she's going to broadcast live is of such significance that it will, in some senses, be an ordeal, but Nick was just saying, it will come from the heart, and even now as they're flying down, I'm sure the Queen will be not merely thinking about what it is that she's going to say, but she will be looking at the text as it stands at the moment, and no doubt revisions will be being made. But speaking very personally, I'm delighted that this is the way that it's going to be done.
Ron, just to interrupt you there, we do apparently have pictures of the Queen's plane just arriving at RAF Northolt in West London, just along the busy A40 road there. There it is, taxiing into position. Of course, we saw this scene last Sunday, Nick.
Yes.
And Princess Diana's body came back from Paris.
7 o'clock last Sunday evening is a moment I don't think anybody who was watching television in this country, and we now know there was an enormous number of people watching, will forget that arrival at Northolt when the body of the Princess of Wales came back, brought back from France by Prince Charles. Now, as ever, the plane gone out of sight for the moment. I have to say that our camera positions are somewhat restricted. The Buckingham Palace authorities have made it clear that they do not wish cameras to be too close. They've regarded this as what was said to me this morning. This is a private administrative arrival. That's a bit of mumbo jumbo. What it means is please don't come too close, and we of course observe that.
So about a couple of minutes the plane will come to a halt and the royal party will descend and make their way fairly swiftly into central London. The roads of course will be cleared ahead of them. How long does it take from Northolt to Buckingham Palace, Nick?
Well, if you and I are driving, Dermot, it can take anything up to an hour. When it's Her Majesty and outriders and the police clearing the way, half an hour or so, I would say.
And then the Queen expected to continue working on that speech, of course.
Yes, working on the speech, but there is this suggestion that no, we just caught a glimpse of our
shot of our Buckingham Palace link that we've been having a few problems with. We're just working on that. We do hope to be able to hear from Helen Wright fairly soon there at Buckingham Palace. But meanwhile, these are live pictures from RAF Northolt. The Queen's flight just arrived there from Aberdeen Airport, just taxiing into position.
We do understand that the Queen will also this afternoon be going to St James's Palace to talk to mourners there.
And just see the royal outriders there and left of pictures just going out of shot, all lined up ready to escort the car into central London. And there's our ITN helicopter aerial shot of the plane. This is slightly to the south, I believe, of RAF Northolt. Just zooming in slightly there, you can see the red and white of the BAE 146 of the Queen's flight.
Emphasise the point that we keep well away when we're in the air from the Queen's flight, as every aeroplane has to do.
There's the car moving into position that the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh will travel in.
The aircraft is a British Aerospace 146. You sure you knew that, Dermot, didn't you?
Oh, absolutely. Just take a little time for the royal passengers to disembark.
And of course, the outriders, you can see they're just to the left of the middle of your screen. They are a sort of grand processional escort, but they do perform a very important function of making sure no one is going to get in the way. And I don't think there's anybody in this country today who will be saying anything other to themselves than wishing Her Majesty a quick and swift journey into London for all this very difficult business that she has to perform this afternoon. As Ron Allison was saying, the royal family have been grieving at Balmoral. Now they are coming to London, to their home at Buckingham Palace, to share fully and centrally in the grieving of the whole nation.
Now, Nick, they're about, what, 3/4 of an hour behind Prince Charles and his sons. Do we know much more about the movements of Prince Charles, where exactly they're going to?
There is a suggestion that they will go to Kensington Palace. I only say suggestion. It seems extraordinary that we don't know the details, but I do get the impression that things are rather being made up as we go along, if you like. The palace authorities very keen, of course, to shield and protect as far as possible the young princes William and Harry. Nevertheless, it is thought they will go to Kensington Palace in the first place, which of course was the home of their mother, Princess Diana.
And where they stayed with her on many, many an occasion.
Well, it was effectively their home, certainly their London home. And when the boys went to school, they were at Kensington Palace more than anywhere else. And then on to St James's Palace to pay their respects at their mother's coffin. And of course the Prince of Wales with them all the time. We saw the Prince of Wales yesterday with his sons at Balmoral. Nobody, I think, will forget again these images that we keep talking of, but one of Harry with his hand in his father's hand. That was a moment. But we are looking again to emphasise this. These are live pictures from Northolt, where Her Majesty the Queen has just arrived and she is about to leave the plane, be escorted into central London to Buckingham Palace, and she will be broadcasting a speech live at 6 o'clock, and of course you will see that here on ITV at 6 o'clock this evening.
Nick, just on that speech, we were talking about it earlier, it's very much coming, very personal speech from the Queen herself. Will that therefore be written by now, or will she still be thinking about it, making last-minute additions?
I would imagine that last-minute editions will go on until a few minutes to 6. I mean, I think that's part of the point of making it live, that she wants to be absolutely, two things, from the heart and very much up to the minute. We all know, the whole country, the whole world knows that events moved very swiftly this week, all sorts of unpredictable things on an almost hourly basis. So I would imagine the Queen's advisors will say to her, no rush, ma'am, we really will get this speech sorted out, but we don't need to sort it out, the fine detail, until the very last minute.
Well, the thought occurs that, of course, she's been in Balmoral for very serious reasons. She has not been in London yet. She hasn't seen the sights that perhaps some of the rest of us have seen for herself. She's seen them on television or whatever. She will perhaps wait and see how the crowds, how the flowers, how the movement of people in London moves her.
Certainly. I think that's a very, very important point to bear in mind. Ronald Allison said yesterday that his current predecessor, is the present man who holds the job that Ron Allison used to do, that's Geoffrey Crawford. In his address yesterday, the prepared statement he read on television said that the royal family would be very hurt by the criticism that they hadn't shared the country's grief. Well,
now, just to interrupt you, Nick, I just think it is a very long shot, and our cameras are being kept away so as not to intrude too closely, but I think we are now seeing the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh certainly getting into their car just before they make that journey into central London. It's impossible from this distance to pick out exact figures.
some people at home have probably got very big screens and might even have a better view of it than us.
Might even be able to give us a hand here.
But certainly the Queen gets in the car first, no matter what, so I think you can assume that that was the Queen. We're seeing traffic passing on the very busy, it's the A40, I think, isn't it, coming in front of us?
Well, it'll soon be rather quiet, certainly in front of the Queen's car, as those Royal Outriders clear the traffic out of the way, speed in front of the Royal car to help her through the traffic lights. It's
quite often that the Queen, well, other members of the royal family, I don't think the Queen's terribly keen on helicopters actually, but frequently the Prince of Wales will come into Northolt and will then helicopter into central London. There's our helicopter,
yes.
Looking at Northolt. Well, he would go by helicopter. Of course, that's a much quicker. That's about a 10-minute flight, and the usual landing spot is Kensington Palace, grounds of Kensington Palace. I think Ron Allison, that's right, isn't it?
Yes, either Kensington Palace or, if appropriate, Buckingham Palace. And you're quite right, Nick, that the Queen doesn't normally use a helicopter. In fact, she had never flown in a helicopter during her reign until Jubilee 1977 in Northern Ireland.
But certainly today there's no question of helicopters being used. It's all motorcades.
They've got this down now as
we're
the motorcades, which is not really the right word. In earlier years, a journey like this would have meant the roads being closed for ages in front and caused enormous disruption. The Metropolitan Police have now got any journey like this down to a very
They almost
finite.
leapfrog the Royal car, don't they? Two go up ahead,
yes,
two
that's
behind.
right. And the delays at the junctions and where the lights are controlled are kept to an absolute minimum.
So anybody making their way in by road for the funeral tomorrow won't suffer too much disruption.
Absolutely, but once it's past a particular junction or point, then normal service is resumed, as it were.
Perhaps the decision not to travel by helicopter also influenced by the fact that with so many people, so many flowers around, you don't really want helicopters buzzing around Kensington Palace and Buckingham Palace.
No, I doubt if it was a serious discussion even at all about whether or not the Queen should use a helicopter. This would just be the automatic arrangement that would be made for her. She will now be chauffeur-driven, of course, and Prince Philip won't be at the wheel of the car. A car, incidentally, which does not have a number plate.
The only one, I think, in the country. I can't imagine there's any other. In case you've just tuned in, we're looking at RAF Northolt, where the Queen has just arrived from Aberdeen, from Balmoral, She's just, as far as we can tell, got into her car now along with the Duke of Edinburgh, Princess Royal and the Queen Mother, and they are en route for London. We're expecting them to arrive, looking at my watch, I would say certainly by about 2:45 they should be arriving at Buckingham Palace. And as we all know, Buckingham Palace is besieged, it is the only word, besieged by flowers. Hundreds and thousands of them. And many people.
We're told, Nick, in all an estimated 1 million bouquets of flowers at the various royal palaces, the 3 London palaces. As you say, besieged is exactly the right word.
And as we will no doubt be seeing later, not just the flowers lying on the ground, but so many messages pinned up on the railings. And one point to make, you can just see in there, I think that's another plane coming in.
We have
there.
another plane coming in. I doubt very much indeed if that's connected with the royal flight. It's just our ITN helicopter just picking up that shot. Let's get back to the Queen's plane.
Yes, I was going to say that when the Queen gets to Buckingham Palace, the royal standard, her royal standard, will be put up that flagpole about which there's been so much controversy. So I only say that because I noticed a flag flickering there in the background.
That will, of course, though, remain at full mast. Right, let's go now to Kensington Palace, I'm told. Well, we will shortly be going to Kensington Palace. We were just talking earlier there that, of course, Prince Charles, Prince William and Harry, and accompanied by their cousin Peter Phillips, arrived a short time ago at Kensington Palace. We are hoping to show you pictures of that soon. This is another plane from the Queen's flight. Now let's go. This is Kensington Palace a few minutes ago. There we have Prince Charles, and the young prince is no doubt overwhelmed by the outpouring of grief for their mother. Very calm, very composed, taking in the atmosphere, looking at the messages.
There's the hand stretching out. You see how often the Prince of Wales puts his hand back now in a very familiar pose, I have to say, but ever ready to take the hand of young.
And Charles going over there to talk to some members of the crowd. Notice the stillness, the quietness amongst the crowd. Our camera just getting into a better position there. The bouquets of flowers pouring over that fence that's just keeping them back ever so slightly. Harry's arms filling up, Prince William's arms filling up. A smile of gratitude from Prince Charles. William having a chat there, so assured,
Yes.
in his moment of grief.
Those flowers, we mentioned so many, aren't there?
Harry just going across there to add the bouquets he's collected to that huge
And the Prince
pile.
of Wales himself taking bouquets over, adding bouquets in tribute to the Princess of Wales, put down absolutely by the Prince of Wales himself.
Well, there we were just watching pictures recorded a little bit earlier from Kensington Palace, the Princes, William and Harry's London home, which they shared, of course, with their mother, Princess Diana. We're going back now to live pictures from RAF Northolt. This is the ITN helicopter as the Queen is leaving RAF Northolt to begin her pretty swift journey into the centre of London and Buckingham Palace. Just ahead of them there, one police outrider. They're just leaving the base. It is an RAF base, of course. Just driving around the perimeter there, I think, before they join the main A40.
As you said, Dermot, they'll be leapfrogging here. There's a bit of a helicopter. Now they...
This is back to Kensington Palace. Recorded a little bit earlier. Charles, as Prince William, clearly prepared to drink in the atmosphere, spend a bit of time absorbing what's been going on in London, talking to people.
So often we've heard that he finds all this sort of thing so difficult at the best of times, but he seems to me to be conducting himself there with the most enormous and wonderful dignity. And there is the Prince of Wales coming forward, Prince Harry shaking her hand. don't know what's happened to Prince William. He's out of our
I think
shot
he's
at the
just
moment.
slightly...
Oh no, he's over there.
They're talking again, getting more bouquets. Every time any member of the royal party there goes forward, their bouquets are pressed into their hands. But in contrast to so many other royal events, the crowd, quiet, respectful, almost
and here,
tangible, their grief, isn't it?
and the Prince again puts flowers down, just as so many members of the public have done. Prince Charles putting flowers down.
These are also recorded pictures from, I think, a slightly different location. Nick, I'm not sure if you can tell us exactly where that is. It's clearly
That's
Kensington Palace.
Kensington Palace, yes. The big golden gates they are, which when you drive along the road near the palace, you look over the railings across Kensington Gardens.
Now, back to live pictures. They're a very clear view of the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh leaving RAF Northolt on their way into London in the car behind them. There's the Queen Mother. They're also accompanied by Princess Margaret. Quite a few people out there. Word has got around. A few waves, but certainly no cheering or anything like that. Now let's go back to Kensington Palace. There we have... Look at this. Thousands upon thousands of flowers there.
Tall gentleman on your left. Colin Trimming, he's the Prince of Wales's bodyguard.
Now we just hear the crowd just clapping.
Yes, we can see them in the background too. There is applause, and it's a strange occasion, isn't it? But it's applause that says, we know how difficult this is for you. Well done.
Charles.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, we just got a
William.
Thank you so much.
This is
Thank you very much.
There we got a very clear shot and a little insight into the young princes there.
We heard them saying,
Thank you very
thank
much.
you very much, yes.
But just to bring in Ron Allison here, we're just switching back now to live pictures of the Queen making her way into central London, going past one of the many roundabouts on the A40, on that route in from the west of London. Just to bring in Ron Allison, what struck you most about those pictures of Prince Charles with William and Harry?
well, first of all, just how moving it was, how mature the two young boys are. And what I was going to say was that this is so difficult. I think all the three of us have been watching, have been seeing the pictures, and then at various times we've gone down to either Kensington Palace or wherever it may be, and we've just been ourselves.
Ron wanted earlier just to explain to people our pictures are a little wobbly because clearly we've got one cameraman there who has to move into different positions, and we obviously don't want to get too much in the way of the princes. Now we're back at Kensington Palace.
Whereas I was going to say, to actually see these banks and banks and banks of floral tributes must be having a profound effect on the three of them. It's quite different from watching on television, as I know we've all experienced for ourselves.
These pictures are, we should say, unedited. We haven't had a chance to tidy them up for you just as we get them. And back to the live shot now. This is happening at the moment. The Queen and other senior members of the royal family on the A40 driving from RAF Northolt back into central London. Ahead of them, their chance to do what we've just seen the Prince of Wales and his sons doing. And there they are again. They are taking part in a full way in the public expressions of mourning and grief. Black ties, smart suits.
Pausing every now and again to read some of those tributes, and you can tell really taking them in.
Yes, when you see them, Dermot, we've both done this, haven't we? You look at those tributes, you start reading them, and then there are so many, and then you move on and you read another. Every single one takes your attention. You have to read the message and say to yourself, That's somebody's heart. Some people put it well, some people can't spell, some people even misspell the name Diana, but it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter a bit, does it?
Well, we're having a bit of a careen around the flowers, but we...
Well, as you said, Nick, just to let people know, these are unedited pictures, and we're hopping back and forth from this that was recorded a few minutes ago of the Prince of Wales and his sons outside Kensington Palace, Princess Diana's London home, and then we're jumping over live every now and again just to keep you up to date with the progress of the Queen, who's been following on slightly behind her son and her grandsons.
I was saying earlier, that tall gentleman there, that, oh, every time I mention him, we lose him. But that, when we'll see him again, he's Colin Trimming, he's the Prince of Wales's principal bodyguard. Many people will remember him in Australia, where he pushed the prince out of the way of a man running forward waving a gun. That policeman's cool courage impressed everyone, as indeed did the cool courage of Prince of Wales himself.
I think the cool courage of the young princes now is impressing everybody. Obviously in a very different situation. There we are, back now live with the ITN helicopters, pictures of the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh's progress into central London, heading for Buckingham Palace, where preparations will be made and will continue to be made. They are, of course, already being made for the live broadcast to the nation tonight at 6 o'clock. And it should be pointed out, not just to the nation, this could have a television audience quite literally of billions, couldn't it, Nick?
Yes, the estimates have been that the funeral itself tomorrow, the funeral of Princess of Wales, will reach about 2.5 billion people live. I have a feeling that Her Majesty's speech this evening will be seen by about the same number across the globe. Another policeman in the foreground, another one of the Prince's regular bodyguards, the Prince of Wales's regular bodyguards.
And then we have people just clapping ever so politely. It's just a gentle touching of their hands, just to make that kind of rustling sound.
Prince of Wales seems to have a picture, I think it is, he's putting down, is it? Yes, I think so.
Yes. There's a Canadian flag in the background, just to point out that this is a tragedy that really has struck everybody in the world. Amongst that crowd, many, many thousands upon thousands of people from all over the globe.
A backpacker there, talking to the royal party. Look how tall William's become, hasn't he? Towering over Dad.
Well over 6 foot at 15.
We're now interesting view of the cameraman. That's walking backwards, as they always have to do.
More of the Queen's car as it makes its way along the normally very busy A40 into central London. It should be about 20 minutes, 25 minutes from Buckingham Palace now.
See the traffic and the slow lane being, well, in fact, the royal party are only in the outside lane there. The other
So
traffic still going
not
on.
really holding things up very much at all. They're now back to Prince Harry, accepting another bouquet.
I don't know what you two feel. Well, I think I do, but I mean, just apart from anything else, I just feel so proud of those two young princes.
I mean, what an ordeal this must be, but they're just carrying it off with such aplomb.
I think someone would have said to them that they were probably asked, what should I do? Should I look sad? Should I look happy? And someone has said to them, just be yourself. And that's what we're seeing now. I'm convinced of it.
And it must be a tremendous support to them. There they are, feeling, hearing, touching the level of support in the country for the first time.
As you said, who was it who said here that seeing it on television is one thing, being there, experiencing, seeing the flowers is quite another. I don't think there's the applause again. I don't know whether we can I can't hear it, but no, we can't hear it, but you know what's happening, a ripple of polite applause all the way along, and it's not the applause that is sort of congratulatory, it's not that, is it? It's people saying that we appreciate this. The country has wanted to see members of the royal family, not necessarily these two boys and their father, we all accept that their grief should be a private thing, but here they are coming, oh look,
there's a hug,
his back. A hug, yes.
For Harry, and he hugged them back, holding hands. Look at him. We'll just stay with these pictures. Hand upon hand being proffered and accepted.
I think this will help them a great deal tomorrow, having this experience this afternoon. They might find the day easier to cope with tomorrow as a result of this, 20 minutes, half an hour or so, getting longer than that now, isn't it? They've been spending amongst the people, just responding, just being, as Nick was saying, perfectly natural. And they haven't been seen very often in this sort of, I don't think they've ever been seen in a sort of a walkabout.
Not like this.
Not like this.
No, look, hands touching them, the way they...
Single lilies there have been handed to them.
The terribly formal business of just shaking hands has been replaced here by hugs and pats on the shoulder. And a lot of handshakes, of course, they're inevitable.
There's another huge sign on that. Princess Diana, Queen of Hearts.
His mother. His mother. More applause. They're going through the gates now into Kensington Palace. This recorded a few moments ago at Kensington Palace.
Well, there we were watching pictures just recorded a few minutes ago of Prince Charles, Princes William and Harry passing amongst the crowd, being handed flowers, putting them in the piles, the huge piles outside their home at Kensington Palace. Now, Nicholas Owen and Ronald Allison are with me in the studio. We all, as we were saying over those pictures, tremendously struck by the way those young princes conducted themselves.
We've had so many images this week, beginning on Sunday, of course, that were things that were really dreadfully difficult to cope with, weren't they? The mangled wreck of the car, we all remember that. Some dreadful things to have to cope with for the whole country. But today, the only word I'm going to use here is love. That's what was coming out of that crowd to those boys and their father, just that. And there's Ron absolutely right. This augurs very well for tomorrow. It's going to be a terrible ordeal for the boys, no two ways about that. But they know now what awaits them on the streets of London, which is we all grieve along with them.
Just wanted to ask you if you think we saw that clapping there, which is, it's hard to know when you're in that crowd how to offer support. That gentle clapping was very interesting. I mean, they did it in Paris when Princess Diana's coffin was taken away.
And I think some of us, when you just read about it or indeed see it on the television, you think, well, that's not very British, is it? I mean, it's a sort of French thing, but actually it is, I was trying to say when we saw those pictures, that it's not congratulations of any sort, it is just a sort of appreciation and a joining in. We are sharing your feelings, and the hands come together to applaud. I think it's a fantastic expression of the way those people at Kensington Palace feel, and they're doing it, I think, on behalf of the whole country.
Do you think we'll see any of it at the funeral itself tomorrow?
I think it's quite possible. This is a unique funeral for a unique person, they said. Well, I think the expressions of grief will be equally unique.
Okay, Nick. And Ron, let's just pick up on that point. You were talking about it being a good preparation for the Prince's ordeal tomorrow, getting a real sense of public feeling.
Yes, I mean, that's not why they were doing it, but it is, I'm absolutely certain that they will now be going back, going into the palace, and they will be feeling, yes, this is something I can deal with, I can cope with. And that was just Nick's word, love. That was just love, warmth, sympathy, affection, shared grief. That was all coming through. And one other thing that I noticed amongst so many young people there, there's no doubt about it, how the princess related to the younger people in this country as well, of course, as to the older ones. But that was a very, very young crowd there, by and large. And the way Prince Harry, I mean, Prince William is 15, Prince Harry's only 13, and the totally natural yet assured way in which he was going up to the people. And who did it remind you of?
Indeed. Thank you very much indeed, Ron. Nick,
yes,
I thought we were going to cross to St James's Palace, and our reporter there, Adrian Britton.
Just one thing I wanted to... Oh,
there he is. There's Adrian there. Adrian, you're at St James's Palace. Word has clearly got around amongst the crowds that the royals are now in London. What are they saying?
Well, they're standing here, and they have stood for many, many hours at the moment, and just waiting to see those scenes that those touching scenes that we've just seen at Kensington Palace. The crowds are pouring in here. Let me show you what I mean. I mean, onto your left, if you look straight down Marlborough Road, about 300-400 yards, right down to those blue vehicles that you can see at the end. That's St James's Park. They're about 20, 30 deep maybe, and it is perhaps here, if the Prince and his sons repeat those scenes at Kensington Palace, they may come here and just say thank you to the crowds. Thank you for showing your support. Thank you for showing your sympathy. What you perhaps can't see to the right is the queue for the Book of Condolences that at 1 o'clock today, that queue was closed and the books will be transferred to Kensington Palace tomorrow at 2 o'clock. And the people there have been waiting for anything up to 16 hours. I mean, one man in particular was waiting for 16 hours, and when he got to the front of the queue, well, then he was called into work, so he had to go. But that didn't matter. There was no problem there. Let me show you the other side. Just a few minutes ago, before you came over to us, the police started to divide the crowd. So maybe the Prince and his sons will be coming here. You can see there the guard pacing up and down outside the Royal Chapel, where, of course, the Princess lies. And the tributes of flowers and of words are pinned to the railings, pinned to the bars. Very poignant words. I was reading them. Everybody is struggling to come up with something to say which really expresses how they feel. But as always, children do this much better than anybody else. And one just said, "You were a very nice princess. You should have had a longer life." So we're waiting here now, and as soon as we get any news, of course, we will come back to you.
Okay, Adrian, thank you very much indeed for your time being. Well, Nick, as Adrian was saying there, the princes are, of course, expected to go and see their mother resting there in the Chapel Royal. A very private moment in contrast to what we've just seen.
Yes, very private moment indeed for them. Some people might wonder why, you know, we didn't see actual tears, but, you know, we just saw the pictures from Kensington Palace just now, but one of the newspaper reporters, one of the press people there, he's reporting that many people in that crowd were openly weeping, and when Prince Harry arrived, he wiped away a tear in his eye. I mean, you know, they looked, I wouldn't say they looked happy, of course they're not happy at all, but they looked fairly contented, or whatever the words, composed, assured, those are the words, yes. But there had been some little tears earlier on, and not surprising at all. As you say, in the Chapel Royal of St James's Palace this evening, they will be paying their respects to their mother, and her body will then be leaving at about 8 o'clock this evening to go back to her home, Kensington Palace.
To make the preparations for the funeral tomorrow.
Yes.
Now, we have, of course, as well been following the Queen's progress into central London. She is about 45 minutes behind Prince Charles and her grandsons. The royal car is passing just underneath those trees you can see at the bottom of our picture. The signal does get interfered with every now and again. We'll stay with it unless it breaks up terribly badly. So we clearly into the built-up areas of London, can't be too far away from Buckingham Palace now. Nick, very likely that the Queen is going to want to sample some of that atmosphere as well, isn't it?
Yes, I think she will want to do that. Whether she's been advised that it's a good idea or not, I'm not suggesting that any particular reason why not, except her schedule getting a little tight with regard to broadcasts, and we know she wants to go to St James's Palace as well. There's a fairly busy afternoon. This is just about 20 minutes or so, a little bit less than that, I think, after they left RAF Northolt.
Just
Hyde Park.
entering Hyde Park,
Yeah.
yes. There we can.
Winding round now, very close to Kensington Palace now, but I think I'm right in saying that you might be going straight to Buckingham Palace in that direction. We shall see in a very few minutes. You're watching live pictures of the Queen, other senior members of the royal family on their way from Northolt into central London, heading, I think, straight to Buckingham Palace. Her son, Prince Charles, and her grandsons, William and Harry, they've been at Kensington Palace, where they helped the public lay flowers. They took some of the flowers from members of the public and laid them themselves, laid the tributes, that was to say, Prince of Wales and his sons, publicly displaying their grief.
Just squeezing through some of the traffic calming measures there that have recently been installed in Hyde Park, slowing them down ever so slightly.
London is a wonderful city when it comes to parks. We have So many of them, and this is, of course, the finest.
And this, of course, the park will be packed with thousands upon thousands of people watching the large screens that have been installed to relay the funeral procession to those people that can't actually get close enough to the route itself.
2 large screens in Hyde Park, and we've learned today that one more in Regent's Park now, because so many people are expected. Now then, turning by the Serpentine.
Serpentine, yes, turning left by the Serpentine.
So I think she's heading straight
Almost
to
certainly to
Buckingham
Buckingham Palace.
Yes. The Serpentine, where the Serpentine Gallery,
Yes.
which was one of the Princess of Wales.
Yes, indeed. She was I'm not quite sure whether she was a patron of it or not, but she was a regular visitor there.
Visitor,
and,
yes.
Often crowds were praised somewhat. Very much an avant-garde gallery, and some rather strange exhibits have been there from time to time, amongst others, the Princess has been to see. But yes, now along Hyde Park, and very soon they'll be coming to the gates that were erected as a tribute to Queen Elizabeth, Queen Mother. And I imagine that will be the way they will be going.
Yes, those gates.
Indeed.
And then down Constitution Hill.
And then to Buckingham Palace.
And
So
then to the
very
palace.
soon the Queen is going to witness for the very first time those huge, huge crowds that are around the royal palaces.
Yes,
This is
There we are, there's the live shot from Buckingham Palace of the spectacle awaiting the Queen. As Nick was saying there, she's just a few minutes away from Buckingham Palace.
what strikes you when you're there is that, oh, here, no, for a
No,
moment
that's
I
a London taxi.
misidentified
Looks
a
a bit
London
like the
taxi.
car.
They're rather grand cars, aren't they, London taxis? But these crowds, so quiet. This is the thing that strikes you when you're there. How can so many thousands of people be almost silent? But they are.
There we can see the police making preparations for the arrival of the Queen.
And the one picture that everybody will be watching for will be the first sign of a flag on that flagpole, which, as I say, will be her royal standard. And that will be replaced tomorrow morning when the Queen leaves Buckingham Palace to go to the funeral at Westminster Abbey. That flag will come down, and in its place a Union flag will fly at half-mast, a total tradition and precedent urged on the royal family by so many people, and they have so often this week responded to public opinion.
Nick, though, does it all seem a bit of a fuss about nothing, though, having, especially of the young princes talking, meeting, shaking hands, hugging people in the crowd?
Hyde Park Corner. Yes, Dermot, I think you're right. Those pictures are the traffic being held out. She's gone through Hyde Park Corner quite the wrong way round. If you're royalty, you can do that. Wellington Arch coming up, yes, to commemorate, of course, the Duke of Wellington, the great victor of the Battle of Waterloo in 1815, a colossal hero of the past. Straight down Constitution Hill. Palace, top right of your picture. That's the more a park than a garden, to be honest. Going down, I think, the right-hand side of the road. That road has been shut off as closed off to accommodate these huge crowds that we see. Now, those crowds, they're at the bottom of that hill. They're only Her Majesty is about 400 yards away now. Coming down, she'll come on to the right-hand side of the picture and move through the gates, which are open, ready for her. She returns to Buckingham Palace.
There we are, that's the distance remains, a few hundred yards.
Here they come down Constitution Hill. Closed, as I said, for several days because of the huge crowds.
Let's just see the reaction of the crowd. Quiet, just taking in the scene.
A London tourist bus going past there. When has London ever witnessed an event like this? What an amazing scene it is. The scenes have all been quite extraordinary this week, and now another one. Her Majesty about to turn right. As Ron Allison said, the car without the number plate with her royal standard above it. Her Majesty the Queen, 4 days after the death of the Princess of Wales.
Slowing right down there to give everyone a clear view away from the Duke of Edinburgh. There's some cheers and claps. There are thousands of people there for the first time, the Queen witnessing for herself.
I think the car is going to
Flowers.
stop. The car has stopped, and Her Majesty
Majesty has got out.
is going to get out. There she goes out of the other side of the car. She is going to look for herself at some of the thousands upon thousands of floral tributes.
Just to let you know, these are live pictures of the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh, who have just arrived in central London outside Buckingham Palace, looking at the thousands upon thousands of tributes to Princess Diana. They haven't gone into Buckingham Palace yet. As soon as their car arrived, they stopped at the gates, immediately got out to see for themselves the remarkable scenes that have been taking place in London over the past week.
You see the crowd. Her Majesty now, she's right at the, well, just about in the middle, I would say, of that picture. All the white there in front of the gates, those are flowers, bouquets of flowers, myriads of them, piling up now ever since Sunday. And the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh are down there right now, as you see this picture, looking at the tributes, reading some of the cards, and the crowd watching on. There you could just see the tall figure of Prince Philip.
Just to the left there, the black hat of the Queen.
Occasional acknowledgement from the Queen and the Duke of the people. There's the applause again that we commented on earlier. It's glad you could be with us, ma'am. Glad you've come down here.
I think a lot of people in the front of our picture not quite sure where exactly the Queen is.
It's always the way with the crowd, isn't it? Those are the lucky few at the front, but there's always cameramen in the way as well. There's a man there, I think he must be on a stepladder.
And there you can just catch a glimpse of the Duke of Edinburgh.
Going
He's
into
coming forward to talk to some people in the crowd.
Yes,
I
that's
think.
what he's doing, yes. Undoubtedly, we will be seeing later on in the day closer pictures of this. We will probably hear, I'm sure we will, what the Duke of Edinburgh and of course the Queen herself had to say to people. I'm sure we will hear some of that later on.
And Ronald Allison straight out of the car immediately to talk to those people, to see those flowers.
Yes, this is exactly what the public have wanted. This is the Queen and Prince Philip doing. I'm sure what they by now would have been instinctively doing in any case, but this is, well, this is a wonderful shot.
Her Majesty now with flowers. Now, presumably, yes, she's taking flowers now. The Prince of Wales laid the flowers that he was given, added them to the thousands. And the Royal Standard flying above Buckingham Palace now. As we say, it flies at full mast. It's the Queen's own standard. Finally, a flag on that flagpole, and tomorrow it will be the Union flag at half-mast in response to the wishes, I think, of the country, all the country.
Back to these live pictures of the Queen
Now-
and the Duke of Edinburgh accepting.
Duke of Edinburgh
Flowers
looked to me
and
as though he was
bouquets.
going to turn and put them on the ground. Let's see if he does. Would you like me to take them over? He probably said, yes. All right, I will. The Duke of Edinburgh pays his tribute. Her Majesty cradling the flowers that she's been given.
Engaged in quite a long conversation there.
Her lady-in-waiting was taking the flowers from the Queen, and she would, I'm sure, out of shot just at the moment, be placing them alongside all the others. I mean, my mind goes back to a totally different occasion, and it's right back in 1970, and it's the Queen and Prince Philip in New Zealand when they started what we came to now know the walkabouts. A very, very different occasion, but again, the public clearly delighted in this very quiet, undemonstrative, respectful, sympathetic way at what is happening. It always staggers me, amazes me that so many people just instinctively respond in not only the same way, but in the right way. Something happens on occasions like this, and we might not know before we get to a situation how we will behave, but these crowds here are just as one, responding quietly and sympathetically.
This morning I was at St James's Palace just up the road, and I went to the head of the queue and I said to the lady there, "How long have you been waiting to sign the books of condolence?" And she said, "Oh, only about 11.5 hours.
Yes.
And you know, that wasn't, I wouldn't say that was the sort of person who would be described as a fanatical royalist or anything of the sort. It was just one of the many thousands who determined to show what they felt for the Princess of Wales. Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh, you're seeing them outside the gates of Buckingham Palace. They have driven from RAF Northolt. Their car stopped in front of one of the gates, the northernmost gate. They then got out and they're walking along the crowd. The people there, I would imagine, they probably had word that the Queen might be coming, but I bet they never imagined that they would see this.
Ron Allison, interesting with the task that the Queen has in front of her, tonight's broadcast and of course the funeral tomorrow. She's unhurried, she's having long conversations with members of the crowd there. Almost, as you say, almost reminding one of, in much different circumstances, of those walkabouts.
It's at times like this, I think, that you realise just how long the Queen has reigned. 1952, 1997. It's a long, long time. Nothing could have prepared anybody for this particular week, but the experience that the Queen has accumulated over the years, the instinctive way in which she knows exactly what is the right thing to do, this is a demonstration of that. Queen amongst her people on such a sad occasion, the rapport is there immediately. And
the people she was talking to clearly been transfixed. Many of these people, of course, been here for many, many hours, some of them many, many days, some of them will be staying overnights for the funeral tomorrow.
Yes, I doubt if many of those people in those positions are going to give them up before tomorrow now, having claimed them. Although in some cases, of course, there will have to be changes made to accommodate the comings and goings.
These people looking on as Her Majesty the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh, there they are. They've been talking to the crowd. The Queen took some flowers from one of the people in there. That's looking along the Mall, I fancy. No, that's...
We seem to have changed. Is this St James's Palace?
I think St James's Palace. Yes, this is St James's Palace.
This may well be Prince Charles.
Well, we're going back.
Well, let's go back to Buckingham Palace.
There's one brief shot there. I hope we come back to it. The Queen and the Duke against the sea of flowers.
And the Duke of Edinburgh there, just identifying who exactly had given him those flowers before he went to place them with those thousands of others.
It's amazing. It was raining in London this morning, and now look at it. The weather has cleared, and there's Her Majesty, Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh, waving to the crowd as they pass the sea of flowers outside Buckingham Palace.
Waves from the crowd.
Applause.
Applause.
They're going back. Now, it's interesting. Will they walk across the courtyard or will they get back in the car? It's
quite a walk.
Well, yes, it's a sort of 50 yards, 75 yards, but I should think the car's still there if they want it. Where's the car? There's the car. I don't know whether they've got in it or not, or they've not got to it. Yes, I think they're getting in.
Yes, they're just getting back in.
They'll be going round to, as you look at the palace, standing with the mall behind you, they'll be going round to the right and to the entrance that the Queen and the members of the royal family invariably use when they come and go from the palace, other than on the grand state occasions when they would come through the centre arch and have left by the grand entrance in the quadrangle.
That's because presumably their own
apartments are on
that side.
that side, yes. There's abode room entrance, and which in my time at the palace used to be full of bikes and toys that the young princes and the young princess used to play with. And then the Queen will take the lift up to her apartments, where she will, amongst other things, later on this afternoon.
And there, yes, there we can see an aerial shot which helps us to pinpoint exactly where Ronald Allison is talking about, just to the right there.
If you see
Buckingham
where it says
Palace.
ITN Live, if you go up slightly left and a bit higher, those are the Her Majesty's cars, I presume, Ron, drawn
That's
up?
right, yes, outside what's the garden entrance, and some steps up, and then a lift, as I say, that will take the Queen up to her own apartments, and Prince Philip too.
Ron, let's just talk briefly about the effect of that. We saw the Queen there, as we were saying, just almost strolling amongst the crowd, plenty of time for everybody. What effect will that have?
Well, it's what everybody has wanted to happen, hasn't it? If we are to believe, and I think we are to believe, that the expressions that were coming of what the public wanted the Queen to do. They wanted her to be here in London. The reasons why she was staying in Balmoral we've examined and explained many, many times. Now doing what was the best thing for the interests of the two young princes. But this has been, I think, exactly the right thing for the Queen and Prince Philip to do. It seems to me that everybody's getting things absolutely right now, and the Prince Charles going with his sons to Kensington Palace, walking amongst the people there, Queen and Prince Philip here at Buckingham Palace, and we understand later on going across to St James's Palace. It's absolutely the right tone, right level.
Well, Ron, just to interrupt you there, we are hearing that Prince Charles and Princes William and Harry are on their way to St James's Palace, Charles's London home, where of course the Diana, Princess of Wales's body is resting in the Chapel Royal. This is the scene we're seeing now, a slightly shaky picture outside St James's Palace, of the crowds awaiting the arrival of the boys, who of course we saw earlier outside Kensington Palace. This is back now to our aerial view of Buckingham Palace. The Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh have just arrived, spent about 15 minutes viewing for themselves those extraordinary scenes, talking with people in the crowd, taking bouquets, adding them to that vast sea of white you can see just up against the gates of Buckingham Palace before going inside.
Extraordinary, isn't it, that it seems to me that on all the big occasions, one thinks recently of the VE Day celebrations and so on, and the royal wedding in 1981, the sun comes out and you get that sort of picture, huge amount of sunshine, the shadow thrown by that great building on the left, Buckingham Palace. It always seems to be that sort of day, but of course, even if it was pouring with rain, if it was freezing cold, it wouldn't have mattered. The crowds would still be there in vast numbers. And now we're going over now. This is St James's Palace. You see how close the two palaces are. This is St James's Palace, where the princes, we are told, are the princes. When I say that, I mean the Prince of Wales and his sons, Prince William and Harry, are now inside St James's Palace, the London home of the Prince of Wales, and where the coffin of Diana, Princess of Wales, is resting in the Chapel Royal there. And at some stage, the Prince and his sons will pay their respects to the Princess of Wales.
This, of course, where those huge, huge queues were to sign the books of condolence Those books now being closed temporarily from 1 o'clock this afternoon until Princess Diana's funeral is over.
The Chapel Royal is more or less, I'm going to say in the centre of your picture as you look at it, not really quite in the centre, to the right of the centre. The road you see running there, it's fronts it. It's the white building on the, just above the ITN Live sign. There's a white building there you can see, and just beyond and to the right of that, well, almost, no, I'm wrong actually, really opposite it is the Chapel Royal, where that coffin has been since late Sunday night.
Yes, the main building that we're looking at is St James's Palace, and then just across the road is the Chapel Royal, and public are not allowed now to go down that road just for the time being.
The Chapel Royal, where those crowds are now, we can see just above the ITN Live logo there.
There's the other one. That's the Queen's Chapel, I think, in the road. And some people mistake that for it, but of course it's the Chapel Royal, where the Princess is lying. And there's Buckingham Palace. You see, again, I keep saying this, but these palaces are quite close together. And very close together, just a few minutes' walk. Kensington Palace, on the other hand, where the Prince of Wales and his sons were earlier, that's quite a way off. That's about a mile away. Let's go back to Kensington Palace.
Well, these are pictures taken a little bit earlier, about half an hour ago. We were commenting earlier on the Ron Allison, on the way these young princes conducted themselves under the enormous pressure they're under. They seem so natural, so relaxed.
Yes, well, two things I said while we were looking at the pictures earlier on. One was, speaking like so many of us are as parents, just how proud I was of the two of them. And then seeing, and I said this particularly with the case of Prince Harry, but Prince William too, when he was talking to and touching the members of the crowd, it was just so moving of whom we were reminded.
And this was recorded earlier. This, of course, when we got a very, very close-up shot of the princes chatting with people in the crowd, saying thank you very much for your sympathy for the flowers. They were, of course, handed large bouquets of flowers. Ron, very reminiscent of his mother.
Yes. Yes, devastatingly so.
I mean, the instant rapport with the crowd, especially in these circumstances, it's almost breathtaking.
Yes.
But who could not be moved by it? Look at Prince Harry there, 12 years old, reading messages about his mother, his beloved mother. Oh, perhaps, well...
Oh, why not?
Tear, or just an itch, perhaps. No. But I think maybe a slight tear. And he's talking to the policeman. Father, he has had to explain to his sons what has happened to their mother. Any parent who's had to do that knows that that is a most difficult task, and in the case of young royal princes there is the additional problem of saying to them, and we will have to go out, we have to go to this sort of public function. It's the word is destiny of these young men, and they understand it, and here they are carrying it out superbly well.
William.
So flowers have been brought to place there. The person, whoever it is, gives it to, there was Harry, he's going back for some more, and they give it to the
He's going back to ask where they want him to put it.
Oh,
no, he's got some
right,
more. Yes.
And then they place it. In a way, it's the sort of, the prince is carrying out the public's wish. Please put these flowers down, sir,
And
in memory of your
reading
mother.
every message there very carefully.
We've seen these pictures. Those of you who've been with us earlier will have seen these pictures already, but aren't they extraordinary? I love the hand casually in the pocket like that. No point telling a boy, hands out of your pocket, son. They don't ever listen when you say that, do they?
Absolutely not. Ron Allison, you were saying a good preparation, if that's the right word, for tomorrow for the boys.
Yes, I think that they will think later on tonight, if they're not already doing so, that they will be able to face tomorrow all the more easily, if that's the right word, but with greater confidence because of this experience this afternoon. It would have been, I think, very, very difficult to suddenly emerge tomorrow into this sort of situation. Not that they would have been shaking hands with people and doing this as the procession made its way to the Abbey, but this must have reassured them of the feelings of everybody for them, of the sympathy that there is there, of the love that there is there, and the desire that there is there on the part of everybody, that they, the princes, should know that we, the people, care. And it's coming through.
Indeed.
It's coming through.
Well, Ronald, as we were saying, these pictures recorded a little bit earlier, about half an hour ago. The princes are now with their father, have moved on from Kensington Palace there where we see them. They are now inside St. James's Palace, their father's home. There, the crowd's outside. We cross live there now, but we're told that the princes have already entered St. James's Palace, where, of course, their mother, Princess Diana, lies in the Chapel Royal, where no doubt they will go and spend some quiet time with her.
I think there is an assumption that the Queen will be coming here a little bit later. We don't know that for certain. It must be emphasised that all these arrangements come as much of a surprise to you, the viewer at home, as they do to us. There's been a conscious decision by the royal family to keep, as far as possible, a lid on the information, not for any sinister reason, but simply so that not too much in the way of huge crowds build up and surge, as they could easily do, from one end of the Mall to the other.
Well, as Ron Allison was saying, it's now. Oh, there we have the royal standard just being raised. This is as the Queen is now in residence at Buckingham Palace. The flag about which there's been so much argument, the royal standard, now flying proud above Buckingham Palace, and remains at full mast because the monarch is in residence. It will, of course, be replaced tomorrow by the Union flag, which will fly at half-mast during Princess Diana's funeral.
It's sometimes asked, been frequently asked in the last few days, why can't the royal standard fly at half-mast? And the answer is it symbolises a living monarch, and if the monarch was to die, another monarch takes over straight away. So the flag never comes down.
Yes, we are never without a sovereign. The phrase, the king is dead, long live the king, sums that up. And in fact, the Queen, in her own time of accession to the throne, she was Queen for some time before she actually knew that she was, her father having died in his sleep overnight while she and Prince Philip were on a tour overseas. Now, I think that is now understood by those who were querying it, and I think the gesture tomorrow, which is the Queen's request, or certainly with the Queen's agreement, that the standard...
Now, just to interrupt you there, Ron, we are now crossing to Althorpe in Northamptonshire, where the Princess's body will be buried tomorrow. We've crossed back quickly because we seem to lose those shots. We've crossed back now quickly to Buckingham Palace. Nick, Ron was saying there a few moments ago that the public and the royal family now seem to be back in tune with each other. They wanted the flag raised above Buckingham Palace. It's there. They wanted the Queen back in London. She's been talking to the crowd. She's back. And they wanted to hear from the Queen, and she's going to make a public address to us tonight.
That's right. And of course there will be the closest attention, I reckon, ever paid to a speech in the history of speeches. Everything she says, everyone will hope and expect that there will be some tribute to the Princess of Wales in that message from the Queen.
There, I just wanted to refer back to that shot that we saw a Union flag at half-mast. I think it's probably a flag that somebody's brought along with them.
Yes, emphasising the point. So that speech will be listened to very closely indeed, and the Queen herself, of course, will be watched. She's going to make it live at 6 o'clock. You can see it here on ITV at 6 o'clock. But the point is this, it seems to me, that what has happened this afternoon will mean that that speech will be watched over the country with a great measure of goodwill. People will not be saying, well, they've got to do something now, but
Nick, we are now just going back to Althorpe House. This is a live picture from, again, those flowers outside Althorpe House. This, of course, now where the princess will be buried. Some developments on that today, Nick.
Yes, a change. She's going to be buried. It's on an island amid ornamental gardens, I think is the phrase that was used. They've changed that. It's not the family chapel anymore. She will have her own special resting place. There is talk of a monument outside, roughly in the spot you're watching at now, I would think. And they do say, the Spencer family say that they will be opening these gardens several times a year so that people can pay their respects to the princess for all the years that are to come.
But Earl Spencer, the princess's brother, was clearly concerned about the number of people that would be attracted to Great Brington if she had been buried in the family church, where of course her father is and many generations of the Spencers lie.
The church in this case being outside the park, the estate around the house, and in the village itself. I think that's a very wise decision. This island in the middle of an ornamental lake is apparently somewhere where the princess spent a lot of time as a little girl. She played there, and the members of the public, as Nick has just said, will be welcomed into the grounds at various times during the year.
But Ron, being controlled in that way, of course the princes can go there for some time, some quiet time, moments of contemplation without being interrupted.
Yes, indeed. And not only the princes, of course. I mean, right from the beginning, the Buckingham Palace have been stressing that all the arrangements that are being made for tomorrow and throughout this week, taking into account very, very much, indeed, putting first the wishes of the princess's family, Earl Spencer and his sisters, and of course Mrs. Shan Kidd, the princess's mother.
Well, Nick, it should be pointed out this is a shot that we won't be seeing tomorrow at the Earl Spencer's and the Spencer family's request.
Oh, well, I'm not sure whether we might, I suppose, be at the gates. I'm not certain, but we certainly won't go any further than that. The Earl Spencer has asked for total privacy for the burial, and that, of course, is being completely respected. This is Althorpe is 77 miles outside of London. The funeral cortege will make its way there up the M1 motorway.
I mean, it's worth saying at this point, I think, that for people in London who aren't going to be able to get to anywhere near Westminster Abbey or the Palace or St James's Palace.
Ron, just to point out to people, we're just crossing back now to Buckingham Palace, and the crowd's absorbing what has just happened a few minutes ago in front of them. The Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh arriving back. This I think is the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh. I'm not sure.
They're leaving Buckingham Palace.
They're leaving Buckingham Palace
to go
to St James's Palace, where of course Prince Charles and Princes William and Harry are already there. So a very brief stop there, Ron Allison.
Yes, not long on this occasion, and across to the Palace, St James's Palace, where they will be able to pay their respects in private to Diana, Princess of Wales.
Well, Nick Owen, as you were saying, there's absolutely no timetable for this at all. It's just happening in front of us, isn't it?
It is, yes, absolutely. Even with the tight royal schedules and people organising things and thinking about it, you couldn't be absolutely certain when things would happen. And we thought this would happen, but we weren't entirely sure. You're looking now at Buckingham Palace, of course. The Queen has just driven away to the left of this picture, the few hundred yards along the Mall. She is clearly going to St James's Palace. I hope we will be able to see her there, arrive there. She has gone there to pay her respects directly to the Princess of Wales. Look at the crowds there still, people milling around. They'll be telling one another now, the Queen was here.
And I think more and more people have been arriving as news is getting around that the Queen has arrived, isn't it? I'm sure there are far more people there than were there when we were first looking at these pictures earlier this afternoon.
The rumour runs through the crowd always, doesn't it?
Yes, and this will go on building up, I'm absolutely certain.
Now this is St James's Palace. You can always tell that it's in that much darker brick. Much dark brick, whereas of course Buckingham Palace is built of stone.
It should be pointed out that the Queen has been in London for less than an hour. She's already talked to the crowd.
Only about half an hour.
Been in Buckingham Palace. Now she's on her way to St James's Palace. But no sense of it being hectic or at all frantic.
No. We're looking now towards the Mall. The Queen, if she has gone there, as we suspect, we presume she has, will be coming from the right of your picture. It's a little difficult sitting where we are to know exactly what is going on. There's no great intelligence network at work. People just have to say, where is she now, and hope that we do spot her.
She will, of course, be reunited with Prince Charles and Princes William and Harry, who travelled down separately from herself and the Duke of Edinburgh from Balmoral via Aberdeen Airport this morning. Prince Charles and the young princes, having seen for themselves the flowers and the crowds outside Kensington Palace, the home of Princess Diana. There's somebody taking up an early position for tomorrow's funeral.
People who I'm sure would have been there. Yes, there's the sleeping bag. People have been camping out overnight to make sure of being right at the side of the road for tomorrow's funeral procession. The police are talking in terms of being able to cope. Well, they say they're going to be able to cope. If 6 million people, I think the last figure I saw was, it's possible to believe it'll be as many as that, but certainly a great many people are determined not just to share in this great national event, very sad national event, but to be there so that they can see for themselves.
The truth is, nobody knows how many people are going to turn up, do they?
No.
And one practical move made there that we were looking at, the crowd barriers have been brought out into the road. The road itself is being narrowed so that there is going to be more space rather than people being kept back on the pavement. The Mall will be, as it were, narrowed for the procession, and more people will be enabled to get good vantage points.
We hear that the young princes who are in St James's Palace now, they will be staying there. This is unfamiliar territory to them, really, because Kensington Palace, their mother's home, was where they would be when they were in London, when they went to school.
We just lost the picture. There's the shot outside St James's Palace, where we are expecting the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh to arrive very shortly. Unless they've gone in a different way. Is there a different way in there, Ron?
Well, there are many ways. When they went out of shot, it was just impossible for us here in the studio to actually see which way they would have gone in.
That's the area where people have been queuing up to get into St James's Palace. If you can imagine, along that wall, for anyone who hasn't seen it, there are candles are lit at night. And that's the road that goes up to St James's Palace from the Mall. Bit of a mystery, this. I wonder whether Her Majesty has stopped somewhere else along the Mall to talk to people. I don't know. Perhaps she's walking along the Mall. It's very difficult to tell.
This is a major royal event that has not been planned with anything like the usual precision.
Yeah,
I think, Ron, we have an explanation.
We are just hearing that the Queen has gone in via Clarence House, the Queen Mother's London home. Which
yes, right.
is one point of entry then into St James's.
Yes, indeed it is. I was wondering that, but didn't mention it because of not at all certain. But it was Clarence House, and it was from Clarence House that Lady Diana Spencer came on her wedding day with her father back in 1981.
These places are all very close together. Buckingham Palace and a few yards away, Clarence House and St James's Palace side by side, really. The Queen Mother's residence, Clarence House, and the Prince of Wales' residence, St James's Palace. Just to emphasise again, the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh, having come down from Balmoral, landed at Northolt, drove into London, taking them about half an hour, went to Buckingham Palace. While there, this is Buckingham Palace crowds you're looking at now. While they were there, they laid flowers, or they talked to the crowd and took flowers from the crowd. The Duke certainly laid some to add to the sea of flowers outside the palace. And a few moments ago, the Queen then, with the Duke of Edinburgh, left. Now, we see the Queen now. This is the Queen's car. Ron, tell us exactly where that is. That's beside St James's Palace. I think she's going to drive past the Chapel Royal.
Yes, I think
Where the Diana's body lies.
that's right. As I say, we have not, because with the best will in the world, I don't think the Palace Press Office could tell anybody exactly what the Queen and Prince Philip would do and when they would do it.
As you watch these pictures, the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh are just coming up to the outside of the Chapel Royal, where the coffin of Diana, Princess of Wales is lying. It's just coming into your picture now with all those flowers on the gate. And it seems to me that Her Majesty is going to stop there.
We can see by the speed the car has been moving at the reason why it's taken so long to get there from Buckingham Palace, travelling
Yes.
very slowly indeed so everyone can get a good sight of her.
That police van moving away now. Those flowers just to the top left of your picture, they're on the railings, and beside the railings, outside the Chapel Royal, where the Princess of Wales' coffin is lying.
I think
Yes, I'm
is
sorry,
the
we
Queen's
misled
car.
you.
She is not,
She's not
in
in
that
it.
car.
Oh, well, we've all
I
been
think
misled.
therefore we go back to our previous information that she presumably has gone into Clarence House already,
Yes.
Ron Allison.
Yes, and walked across, or will walk across if she hasn't already done so, from Clarence House. And the car is making its way to, I imagine, be in position when the Queen and Prince Philip emerge.
Sorry about that if we misled you. We didn't know ourselves. We have no idea, as Dermot says, what is going to happen when, but the car anyway was beside that Chapel Royal. What will happen, of course, is that the Queen herself will be able to go inside that chapel. It's not been open to the public in any sense. Other members of the family have paid their respects. Prince Edward, the first one, and today it will be the Queen, the Duke of Edinburgh, the Prince of Wales, and his sons William and Harry.
And the Queen Mother, who of course flew down from Aberdeen with the rest of the royal party, presumably made her way straight to Clarence House.
So the Queen has got out of her car in the Clarence House, which is away to your right. She can walk through the precincts of St James's
Yes,
Palace.
indeed. And presumably that's where she will get back into the car to go back to the palace.
And as she walks through, she will undoubtedly go to the Chapel Royal. And then eventually, after paying her respects, we did hear that there was some possibility of her looking at the books of condolence, which I am sure she will want to do.
No, the car is going on at the moment.
Does this indicate that perhaps the Queen is going to spend quite some time there?
It could indicate a number of things, that indeed that she's going to spend some time there, or that possibly she's going to walk back to the palace. But I have no...
As we've been saying, yes, anything can happen.
That's
in
the
this
car
situation.
coming round into the Mall now, and it looks as though it is being sent back to the palace. The Queen obviously says, I don't need that car. She's going to be spending more time.
But raising the intriguing possibility that she may well make that journey back on foot.
I think
part
what's
of it.
going to happen is that she is going to come out of St James's Palace, which is the top left of your picture. I think she will talk to members of the crowd and hear from them and hear their own feelings on this day.
Yes,
She'll
because
walk
there we
along the
see
road.
the car being reversed into
Yes,
position there.
It's about a matter of 50, 60 yards, that
Yes.
little bit of road. She will be able to talk to some of the many, many thousands, and then back into her car, which will then drive away to the left of your picture back to Buckingham Palace, which is in turn another couple of 100 yards at the end of the Mall.
Now, none of us know what the Queen is going to say when she broadcasts at 6 o'clock this evening, but we were talking earlier about it being a live broadcast and the reasons for that as opposed to it being a recorded one. And I'm absolutely certain that in the broadcast the Queen will reflect the experiences of this afternoon, that she will now be able to talk to us, talk to the nation, talk to the Commonwealth, talk to the world with these experiences as part of the preparation for the speech.
We were saying earlier, Ron, that we thought she would do this kind of thing, absorb what's been going on in London. There we have the
Queen of Hearts.
Queen of Hearts, of course.
Yes, on one of the bouquets there's
prevalent in
someone
all
as
those bouquets.
Queen of Hearts. We all know that's a title that Diana herself was pleased to adopt, if that is the right expression. What she meant, I think, was that she wanted people to think of all the very, very good things she tried to do for charities particularly.
But just to look forward to events that are coming up, we have the Queen's speech, of course, at 6 o'clock. Then, Nicholas, very, very sad moments when Diana, Princess of Wales' coffin will be removed from St James's Palace and taken to Kensington Palace in preparation for tomorrow's funeral.
That will happen at 8 o'clock tonight. It's been announced quite clearly. That's the time it will happen. And I suppose that could be said to be an opportunity for even more people to see the coffin. I think there is a great feeling that people would like to see that coffin. I suppose like is not really the correct term, but feel the need to see that coffin. There's the sea of flowers outside Buckingham Palace. A short time ago, I think it must have been about half an hour, three-quarters of an hour ago, the Queen herself walked past that enormous quantity of flowers and flags and messages piled up outside the gates of her home, Buckingham Palace, in tribute to Diana. And she is now at St James's Palace, not very far away, and we assume that she is there paying her respects to the Princess of Wales. This has been a moment, or moments, of high drama, great sadness, and I think great dignity.
Ron, talking about the Queen's speech this evening, it's at 6 o'clock, of course, can be seen here on ITV. She's cutting it a bit fine. She's not back at the palace yet.
And what is it now? 3:20. Oh, there's time enough. And there will be time enough. I back in the 70s was involved in Christmas broadcasts, which were recorded then, and the Queen prepares her finally. It's her speech. All sorts of input into it in the Christmas speech, but she's given a draft ultimately, an agreed draft, and then she would put her own stamp upon it and just change a phrase or so, although the speeches that are written for her are written in the knowledge of the style that she uses. It'll be very interesting this evening for all sorts of reasons, but whether it will be that kind of message that we've become used to, or whether it will be even more personal. I mean, as personal as those tributes there.
You're seeing there, Diana and Dodi Al-Fayed side by side.
Yes, we must remember at this time, of course, that, as you say, Dodi Fayed died in that crash, and the driver did as well, and another man lies seriously injured in a Paris hospital.
Just taking in the scenes there outside Buckingham Palace. There's one young chap or chapess who perhaps won't remember the events themselves, but will be told in years to come that they were there when the Queen came back to Buckingham Palace.
All those policemen that we keep seeing, there's going to be 27,000 Metropolitan Police officers on duty tomorrow. I think that must be just about the entire complement of the police force.
And yes, and they will be concerned solely with safety, with crowd control in the best sense of the word. It's amazing on occasions like this how people are so, well, perhaps it's not amazing, but people are just so respectful of the occasion, the event.
But I'm also told, Ron, that no aspiring burglar should imagine that London is not covered as well. The police have made very clear that they will still have the capacity to keep the streets peaceful well away from this, and an outbreak of burglary will be tackled very vigorously. But nevertheless, what a huge operation it is for the police, with the huge numbers in London tomorrow.
Well, we're just about coming to the end of this particular broadcast. Just before we leave you, let's just remind ourselves again of the moment when the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh arrived back in London from Balmoral, emerged straight from their car before even entering the gates of Buckingham Palace to see for themselves the floral tributes. Under an hour ago, 45 minutes or so ago, huge crowds there. There's the Duke of Edinburgh, as I say, about 45 minutes ago. They've probably been in London now still just about an hour. The Queen, they're very clearly stopping, pausing to read some of the messages, the Duke of Edinburgh pointing them out to her. They then spent quite a considerable time talking to members of the crowd, hearing their feelings. Above all, they were listening to people. Very much what the public seemed to have been demanding. A little while before that, the Prince of Wales and his sons were at Kensington Palace, And what strikes us here is the extraordinary composure of Princes William and Harry, and of course the similarity especially between Prince William and his mother. Touching people, taking bouquets, shaking hands, a polite applause. It wasn't really applause, but clapping amongst the crowd, people trying to find some way of showing their sympathy. Their hands being grasped, not just shaken. Little Harry there clearly moved.
Thank you so much.
And as we've been saying in the studio, perhaps a source of strength for the ordeal those young boys face tomorrow. Well, there'll be an extended early evening news today at 5:40, which will include the Queen's live broadcast to the nation at 6 o'clock. And then tomorrow there'll be full coverage, of course, of the funeral on ITV. GMTV will report from 6 o'clock in the morning on the preparations. And here at ITN, we will have uninterrupted coverage of the funeral itself from 8:30 in the morning through to about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So that's the funeral of Diana, Princess of Wales, on ITV at 8:30 a.m. tomorrow morning, presented by Trevor McDonald. But for now, from all of us here, goodbye.
Good afternoon, I'm Angus Scott. This is London Today. The number of mourners converging on Westminster Abbey and the route of the funeral is continuing to grow this afternoon. And the huge crowds planning to sleep out tonight are presenting the authorities with a string of challenges.
Time is now running short, and all around Westminster Abbey the preparations continue. Everything that could affect the view is coming down. Even fencing in the middle of the road is being cut away. Along the entire route, the drains are now being cleared and cleaned. And for those who've chosen to camp out, there's now a growing number of 24-hour toilets. The reward for sleeping rough is a prime position. But with the 9 a.m. start to the funeral procession, many others may wish to spend tonight in London, but not on the streets. At Paddington Station, an entire train has now been set aside to provide shelter for up to 500 people. For many, the tributes paid this week may have been overwhelming, but the planners are now in no doubt. Tomorrow's events will be unprecedented.
Obviously, we've dealt with issues such as royal weddings, we've had VJ Day, VE Day, but this is by far the biggest London will have seen, probably in most people's living memory. Current estimates are that we can expect 2 million people, so we're planning hard and making sure, working hard behind the scenes to make sure that everything should run smoothly.
Police as well have been carefully checking every potential hiding place for a bomb. Still an essential security check, even for such a solemn occasion.
Gareth Furby with that report. London's florists have been working since dawn today, making wreaths and bouquets for tomorrow's funeral. And as mourners continue to telephone florists in the capital with their orders, suppliers have been forced to import millions of extra blooms.
At the west door of the Abbey, where Diana's coffin will enter, you can hardly see through the railings for the floral tributes arriving ceaselessly. From the elaborate to the heartbreakingly simple. I hope you are happy in heaven. For security reasons, these will have to be removed later today to join the sea of colour spreading across the Abbey lawn and overspilling onto the green of Parliament Square. The Pimlico florists, Watkins and Watkins, have never experienced anything quite like it. Put Mother's Day together with Valentine's Day, multiply it many times, and still Rosemarie can't quite come to terms with the scale of this most extraordinary week of her working life.
Never, ever have I ever seen anything like this. It's been so emotional and just constant hard work.
Never before has Interflora so spectacularly lived up to its slogan, Flowers Worldwide. Orders have poured in from all corners of the globe, from China, from Thailand, from the USA, from all parts of Europe. It goes on. And from the florists of London themselves, their own tribute, the world has lost its finest flower, Diana. In Pimlico, this is Hay Gordon for London Today.
Before we go, just time to tell you about two special programmes later today. They'll show how the capital mourns Diana, Princess of Wales. The first is at 5:10, when we hear from ordinary Londoners who counted Diana as a friend. And at 6:10, we'll have more reports and reactions to events today. We'll also have a special programme tomorrow at 6:30, reports on the funeral, how London has said goodbye to Diana. Do hope you can...
The Queen to arrive and to walk towards Buckingham Palace.
Yes, I heard Jenny saying that, you know, people waiting to see the Queen. I have to say that
there are pictures of her now coming out of St James's Palace.
Is that people have come to see if the Queen is going to join them. They have come to pay their respects to the Princess, and now here is their Queen. And this is not the usual tourist occasion. This is Her Majesty coming to join with everybody. This is the Queen amongst the people of this country.
Kate, we can now see pictures of the Queen. She
is talking to them. I too can see her. She's with them, and I think this is what everybody wants. It is not the usual point at which people strain to look at the Queen, strain to push for the point where she is. There are people waiting all around this area to see her, but also to say, you've come to join us. It's very much that feeling.
Kate, thank you. Let me ask Jenny, what do you think the Queen will be feeling at this moment? It's been pointed out that she's 71. It isn't a particularly arduous walk for a countrywoman, but it's an arduous walk emotionally, isn't it, for her?
It is, of course, a time of great difficulty for her, emotionally and in every other way. I suspect, though, that back in what is to her something of a routine, if you like, amongst the people, talking to them, she might find some comfort. The royal family always do find some comfort from familiar situations. And I think she will be drawing great strength from the crowds, as indeed the Duke of Edinburgh, who we sometimes forget in this whole scenario. He had sometimes a tempestuous relationship with the Princess of Wales, but she told me once that she gave him as good as she got, and she really rather liked him. That's what she told me.
Perhaps she was one of the few people who dared to do that.
I think that's perhaps the case. I think there were some very sharp exchanges of letters at some point, but he does respect someone who stands up to him.
Anthony Holden.
I was very struck by what Kate Adie was saying, the unusual nature of this royal event. All week, as we've said before, these people have come to pay a very personal tribute to Diana, not particularly to the royal family, especially in their absence. And now, as Kate was saying, it's not like a thing where people fight for a glimpse of the Queen. It's as if they're the ones the Queen's come to visit, rather than the other way round.
And
this healing process we talked about earlier, this sense of family that the monarchy's lacked for some years.
And I think very unusual pictures of Prince Philip, normally seen with his hands clasped firmly behind his back.
Indeed.
Putting them out to hold the hands of people in the crowd.
The palace will be pleased because in some of the less responsible newspapers there have been reports recently that his health is not good at the moment, and a little bonus of today is that we see him looking very hale and hearty at the age of 75.
Kate Adie, you're there with the crowd. You can see the Queen and Prince Philip as they walk very slowly down this crowd, talking to them.
It's an unusual occasion. As we're used to, there's usually great enthusiasm and the sort of constant royal family watchers are usually those in the front of the crowd. This is not the case today. The people who are here are not the people who are the traditional liners of barriers when there's a royal visit. These people have come for a very particular reason themselves, and I think there is a kind of quiet, shall we say, satisfaction that this is now happening, a sense that this is right and proper. They are here now with everybody else, and there isn't by any means a notion of criticism. There was a little applause. It's very difficult to know how to react in these circumstances. What is the alternative to a wildly cheering crowd, which is the traditional sight at the barriers when the royal family is there? It's people standing quite quietly, not entirely in silence, though that area where they are right now has been noticeable for the silence of the past few days. But now there are people just wishing for a chat, and it is that informal. Just a few words, just a chat, just something to say, you know, we're here, you're here. That's right.
Tony Holden, you voiced the opinion earlier on that if Her Majesty had not come to London and done something like this, that she might have been booed tomorrow.
Well, that was the talk among the crowd as they grew increasingly angry on Wednesday and Thursday, and these various symbolic things we've talked about were not amended. It has taken 5 days for the royal family, as we can see now, to visibly become part of the nation's grief.
But this isn't the mood of this crowd, is it?
It doesn't look like it. I think we've talked about a healing process. But as Kate is saying, there's no cheering going on as there would be on a normal royal event. Of course, it's a
But it would be unlikely to hear cheering, wouldn't it? At a time of such strong emotion, people don't feel like cheering.
I think cheering would be inappropriate, of course, now. But I rather doubt that crowd is saying about time too, which was what they were in a mood to say yesterday. I think the hastily arranged events have saved the royal family from potential lot of trouble next week.
I think it's a difficult situation for both the Duke and the Queen because they are unlikely to be unburdening their souls here. They are not a family who will be saying their personal feelings about the situation. We are in fact getting the first reports of some of the things they're saying to the crowds. The Queen apparently told one lady that it was wonderful to see so many flowers, but the person she spoke to said that the Queen was extremely slow to talk, simply said that she was very sad, and that's probably as far as she will go, I would think, in revealing her emotions at the moment, quite properly.
So do you think the sting has been taken out of the situation, Anthony Holden?
I think that's probably happening as we speak, yes, and it will be confirmed tomorrow, which we hope, and from the sound of the details, tomorrow is going to be as much a celebration of Diana's life, a sort of Di festival, as it is going to be a fond and final farewell. And it was interesting from the start to see those young princes able to smile with the crowd as Philip and the Queen. It's been a few days now, we've got used to this extraordinary news. Life will eventually perhaps return to normal in this country, but it required a meeting like this between the people and the monarchy for that process to begin to happen.
Michael Delanoy, what's your reaction, royal biographer, what's your reaction to these pictures as you see them?
Exactly the same as Mr. Holden's, and it's worth remembering, I think. I mean, I'm speaking to, as you know, from the Brighton studio. The people we're watching on television now are in London, but their views and feelings are reflected right across the country. There are millions of people who are not in London whose feelings are just the same. There's a book open in Brighton Town Hall to be signed, and I imagine there are everywhere else. Anthony Holden was also talking interestingly about, just going back to the question of whether or not the Queen might restore Diana to her Royal Highness. I agree with him, I don't think she will, because the royal family are not much given to admitting in public they've made a mistake. I see a very strong analogy here with Mrs. Simpson and Edward VIII. She, as you know, was given a morganatic marriage and was not an Royal Highness. Complete and utter nonsense, in my opinion. And for all I know, the Queen thought so when she came to the throne, but there was never any chance that she would have restored, or rather would have granted the title, she never had it, to the Duchess of Windsor. So I think we can forget about that, but I agree with Anthony Holden, it was a terrible blunder to make. But again, I would agree that everything that is happening today, as we watch and talk, is part of a huge restoration of confidence and faith between the people and the monarchy.
Anthony Holden?
Just to finish the point Michael's making, it has to be said that there was a widespread expectation that whenever Prince William became king, on the assumption that his mother was still alive and took the place of, became the King Mother, that he would have restored her HRH, because obviously she would have become a very prominent public figure again, and by definition Prince Charles would not have been on the scene anymore, so there would have been less awkwardness about it. I think people are aware that that prospect has been robbed, and that might be the only thing that made the Queen think about it, but I agree with Mr. Delano. I don't think she's going to do that.
There also was a feeling, just as the Duke was exiled with Wallis Simpson, that the Princess of Wales might have held her own court, wasn't there? And there might have been two rival courts for a time.
There was a time that sort of began to happen, really, around the time of the divorce, when whether you were a writer or a journalist or whatever, or ordinary members of families around this country arguing about it, like the soap opera around a kitchen table, people felt obliged to take sides, as people often do when any of their friends get divorced. You try not to, but it is almost inevitable at times.
There has been a feeling recently that there has been a sense of reconciliation and increasing friendship between Prince Charles and the Princess of Wales, that they were due to make a public appearance in Wales together as a family, weren't they, Jenny? I think in October.
Well, it was never confirmed, but there was strong speculation that would happen. We see the Queen now is going to make her way back to Buckingham Palace. And I think things would have been so very different and much easier for the Prince had the Princess been seen to be happy, as indeed she appeared to be in those last weeks. And we seem to have a little confirmation of that as we watch the Queen make her way to Buckingham Palace, because I've just heard from a news conference being given at Harrods that 2 gifts that were given by the Princess to Dodi Al-Fayed have been revealed at Harrods. One was a gold cigar clipper inscribed with love from Diana, and the other was a pair of cufflinks which the Princess had been given by her father, the late Earl Spencer, of some significance perhaps.
Yeah, it's a very personal present.
Very personal. And I think had she been seen to, that this romance had blossomed into something more and been happy, the whole family would have been much, much happier, and things would have been much easier.
That's certainly true, and of course it's not really on the agenda this week, but had the Princess ever remarried, which seems entirely possible, the whole issue of the Prince and Mrs.
Can I interrupt you for a moment just to say that we're seeing the royal car carrying the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh travelling very slowly down the Mall towards Buckingham Palace again, away from St James's where they've been to pay their respects, to see the princes, the young princes, and to meet Prince Charles, and to get out and talk to people very slowly as they walk down the road. They're now returning looking extremely relaxed to Buckingham Palace, where the Queen will be preparing for an ordeal of another kind, which is to make a public broadcast to the nation, which will be on air at 6 o'clock.
Just over 2 hours' time, and as we've said earlier, it's going to be live, which is very rare. I think since the days it was technically possible to pre-record a broadcast, such as a Christmas broadcast, she's always done that. But as I think Wesley Kerr was saying earlier, in the light, in the circumstances in which all this is happening, had she pre-recorded a broadcast, it might have had a little cosmetic feel to it.
Live.
But a live broadcast won't.
Live is live, and she's speaking to the nation. Wesley Kerr is there outside Buckingham Palace. Wesley?
The Queen is now re-emerging. Yes, indeed, it will be the Queen's first live broadcast since 1959. For the first few years of her reign, the Christmas broadcast was recorded live, such was the technology then. But ever since then, that's been pre-recorded, as was her broadcast about the Gulf War 5 years ago. This will be her first live broadcast for 38 years. And we've been speaking to some of the people in the crowd, and they're hoping that she will give a personal tribute both to Diana, as it were her daughter-in-law and the mother of the next monarch, but also a tribute to Diana's great public work and great impact. So it may well be that Diana's lasting legacy as what the Prime Minister called the People's Princess is a people's monarchy, and it may be that the events of today and tomorrow will heal the little breach between the people and the monarchy. So somebody said to us, at last she's here, she should have been here earlier, but thank you for coming. And somebody that spoke to her said that she was somber, but very much aware of the importance of the events today.
Wesley, thank you very much. And as the Queen turns in her car into Buckingham Palace in order to go and prepare to make that broadcast, she will have seen all those messages and very much picked up the feeling of the crowd and their affection for Princess Diana before she makes her broadcast. We're now coming to the end of this special live broadcast on a dramatic afternoon which began with the visit of the Prince of Wales and Princes William and Harry to Kensington Palace. They looked at the floral tributes and spoke to people in the large crowd. They then went on to St James's Palace, where the body of Diana, Princess of Wales, is lying in rest. And there's Prince Harry looking at some of the tributes to his mother, looking very composed.
Sadly, on September the 15th.
And Prince William, his elder brother, looking equally composed, bearing themselves extraordinarily well on this strangely demanding day in their lives.
People in the crowds have been saying that William particularly was composed and able to converse with them, but some people have been saying that little Harry there seemed in something of a daze, which is fully understandable, of course, but both bearing up very well.
Prince Charles looking on in a very concerned manner, and one feels thinking very much, how much of this can they take? Shall I move them on, away from the crowd? Are they making too many demands on them? He keeps slightly like a mother hen, pulling them towards him and urging them to move on a little, fiddling with the ring on his left finger, as he often is, and then walking on again.
Marshalling them, isn't he? Because of course they're not used to the rhythms of these occasions.
He's looking very protective towards them, I think.
Indeed, I think that's true.
And of course Prince William is of an age where he might find open affection just that little bit embarrassing. His mother once told me that she still loved to hug him, and sometimes they say, "Oh, stop it, Mum," as adolescent boys will, but she said, I know he really loved it. And she said, as I've said before, she said the country is very lucky to have William. William's all right.
And many people who've suffered bereavement, I know, have told me that they feel that the expression of that from other people is as difficult to take as it is to cope with your own feelings.
The Princess told me a few months ago that she was always, of course, talking about her boys, that she was worried that Harry was going to get left out of a lot of things, that all the girls would go for William, he'd be the centre of attention. And what's very sweet and poignant as we look at these pictures is that she was very conscious of the difficulties aware of William and was training Harry up as a sort of support system for his older brother in the very tough trials ahead, even without these terrible events. And you almost begin to see that happening as we watch these very touching pictures.
There's a very close bond between the boys, isn't there, Jen? And yesterday, outside Balmoral, Prince William, we felt, was very protective towards Harry and was immediately going over when Harry wanted to show him a particular message that he'd read and had meant something for him, that interested him.
Harry showed huge interest in the messages and tributes and lingered long behind the others, the interest that we see here again. Of course, both boys have in front of them the school term starting. William, indeed, should be at Eton now. Harry should return to Ludgrove next week. I don't know if he will do that. In many ways, it might be the best thing for them. Both will have housemasters who they'll know and be a stable force for them and help them through the months to come.
Well, there we are. The Queen will broadcast live to the nation at 6 o'clock this evening, a little over 2 hours from now. That address will be broadcast here on BBC One just before the 6 o'clock news. From myself and from Jenny Bond, from Anthony Holden, from the BBC correspondents at the Palaces, and from my guests this afternoon, Michael Delanoy, Anthony Holden, good afternoon.
Where Holly was being treated for leukemia. Claire, just how well did Diana cope with children and children in hospital?
Oh, she was excellent. I mean, Holly can be quite awkward and can be very shy, and, you know, she just seemed to, as Holly was nervous with the interview coming up, and as soon as she walked over to Holly's bed, Holly just melted to her touch. She touched Holly, she spoke to her gently, she reassured her, then she spoke to Holly about her 2 children, and was talking to Holly as a child, not as a royal, you know, just basic day-to-day talking. It was very, very touching.
And to you it was totally natural?
Yeah, I mean, I just felt that there was no, you know, it wasn't hard for her to react, and she just found it so easy. It just come naturally. It was just a natural, it wasn't forced where you'd look at some people and think, oh, it's a forced reaction. It just wasn't that with her. You could tell it was pure natural. You know, Holly, you know, can be quite trying.
She can be a bit of a giggler as well, I know, because I met her a moment ago. Holly, darling, do you remember meeting Diana?
No.
What do you remember about her?
She was nice to you, wasn't she? What did she say to you when she picked you up?
You're heavy.
You're heavy.
And did she give you a tickle?
She did, didn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Claire, it's your burden and challenge as well. She was a mum. How did she help you as a mum with Holly in hospital?
It was, I mean, we've been through a lot of heartache over the last 8 months with Holly, and it made there is some sort of nicety. I mean, there is no nicety about Holly having leukemia, but that made it an uplift, you know. It really gave us a nice time. It was a nice day, it was pleasant. Everything about it, I just couldn't fault it. It was very nice.
Claire and Holly, thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's perhaps appropriate that Diana's last public engagement should have been at a hospital, because away from the fashion shows and the first nights, it was where we were most used to seeing her. But what perhaps we didn't realise was that her compassion certainly didn't end when the cameras stopped rolling. Claire Wildman here was given a transplant by Professor Sir Magdi Yaqub at Harefield Hospital back in 1995. Whilst Claire was recovering from the operation, he brought her a very special visitor. Claire, tell me about that first visit.
I was lying on my bed and Professor Yaqub said, I've got a visitor. And as he said that, she peered round the back of him. And I was just overwhelmed and I couldn't believe it.
But it wasn't going to be just the first and last time, was it?
No. I also met her at Christmas last year when she rang up the ward and just said, by chance, are you going out tonight? And I said no. So she said, all right, I'll come up and see you. So she popped up and she was like a friend, just chatting away. And it just brought me out of my depression, because I was in depression.
You got pretty down, didn't you?
Yeah.
And she wasn't having any of that?
No.
You wanted to go and sign the book of condolences. 1 or 2 folks said that's going to be tough for you, but you were determined. How tough was it?
Well, I'm just normal like everybody else. Doesn't bother me. I just felt it was my duty to go and say thank you and my last goodbye.
And you're going to attend the funeral service tomorrow?
Yes, I am.
How important will that be to you?
Very important.
What do you suppose will be going through your mind? Will it be that phone call? I mean, the way you described it was like a mate phoning up and saying, you doing anything tonight?
Yeah. I think it'd be very emotional, and I can't believe it's actually happened.
All right, well, Claire, thank you very much indeed, and I hope tomorrow is okay for you. Now, Kathleen Irvine here works at the National Hospital for Neurology. Princess Diana was patron of the hospital for many years, and during that time, Kathleen has progressed from being a junior nurse to the senior nursing manager. Kathleen, when we were talking to Holly earlier on and Claire, you got this wonderful impression of a woman, a young woman, who cared and loved for children. But it wasn't just kisses and cuddles, was it? There was a determination to do good for the causes, to do good for the hospital.
Absolutely. And in the 9 years that the Princess of Wales was our patron, she was actually instrumental in enabling us to raise the funds necessary to build our new wing by her sheer hard work and commitment and her dedication to the National Hospital.
I mean, the thing that amazes me as well about it is that she actually came up against officialdom occasionally in trying to do that. Tell us how she dealt with that officialdom.
Well, I believe you're responding to a report about one of the visits she made, which was her last private visit to the hospital, where her itinerary was very rigidly in place, and we had some patients who were very disabled, some of them in pain, and we had gathered them at the end of one of the wards. She was actually being asked to leave the ward at that point, and I asked her if she would mind just saying a quick hello to the group that we had assembled. In fact, even though she was being ushered from the ward at that time, she said she certainly would, and in fact didn't actually just say a quick hello. There were about 20 patients, and she actually stopped and spoke to each patient and focused entirely on the patients, despite the fact that she was actually surrounded by people who were quite eager to have her move on to her next area visit.
And you mentioned there are people who are severely ill and disabled. I mean, let's be honest, for some of us that's tough. It's difficult. You tend to look the other way. How did the most severely disabled and ill deal with her, and how did she relate to them?
Well, she had a marvellous impact on the morale of patients and staff on her many private visits, and there was always a great sense of anticipation and excitement amongst the patients and staff, and the patients were very keen to meet her and to present themselves, and even when they had desperate pain or just undergone major surgery, they really were very excited and made a constructed effort to look the best for her. They wanted us to apply the makeup and make sure that they looked well, and really afterwards there was always a great sense of elation amongst the patients that they'd actually had the opportunity to meet her.
Some of the best medicine available.
Absolutely.
Kathleen, thank you very much indeed. Well, one group of patients were particularly close to Diana's heart, and they were those who were HIV positive or who had contracted AIDS. Diana, in her very public support of AIDS charities, did much to remove the stigma attached to this devastating disease. Christopher Keegan and Jonathan Grimshaw have both witnessed at first hand Diana's commitment to those living with AIDS. Christopher, there is no doubt at all that the work Diana did on AIDS was groundbreaking, very serious stuff. But she also managed to take the mickey out of you quite unmercifully, didn't she?
Oh, absolutely, yes, and quite surprisingly. It was at the opening of the Mortimer Market Centre at UCH. And I was just lying in a dentist's chair, and I was actually wearing this very shirt and tie that I'm wearing now. And her first words were, "My God, that shirt doesn't go with that tie," or vice versa, where we both just fell about with laughter. And after that time, the press were asked to leave, and I had a quiet time with her, and I was able to talk to her. And the only thing I could do was to thank her for all the work that she had done. I mean, when you think that she was one of the first people to actually pick up a coloured baby with HIV, I mean, that was amazing. Those images were absolutely fascinating.
Is it going to be difficult to carry on the work that you yourself and your friends do in support of HIV and AIDS charities now that this remarkable motivator is no longer with us?
No, we'll do it in her name. I mean, I'm involved with Crusade, and we have a walk every year, and that is to get funds for the Hardship Fund, which is run with the Terence Higgins Trust. And when I first came back, when I was diagnosed with full-blown AIDS 15 years ago, Crusade helped me. And I've done every walk. The last 2 walks I've actually done in a wheelchair because I have neuropathy. Sure. But no, I think it'll make us even stronger.
All right. Jonathan, a tough question. There's no doubt that some people support AIDS and HIV charities because it's fashionable, because it's politically correct. Did you ever have any sense of that with Diana?
Not in the slightest. I think, you know, when she first became involved with the HIV and AIDS issue, kind of in the mid-80s, it was a very unfashionable cause. And I think one of the reasons why perhaps people with HIV and AIDS in particular feel a sense of sort of personal gratitude towards her is that, in a sense, she didn't have to do this at the time. She could, you know, have given her name to much more traditional, safer causes. But the fact that she, you know, lent her support to something controversial like HIV was remarkable.
Christopher and Jonathan, thank you both very much. Thank you. Some of the first images that we all saw of Diana back in 1980 were of her with children. She worked with them in a nursery school. But we soon realised that for her, it was a labour of love.
We could be lifted, lifted, lifted. We could be lifted from the shadow.
Well, you know, 3 months ago when Diana visited the Hindu temple at Neasden in North London, it was children who stole the scene yet again. Amongst the thousands waiting to meet her were teacher Marij Divesha Talka and one of her pupils, Yalpa Vasani. Welcome to both of you. Marij, first of all, it's a simple truth that when it comes to care and compassion, children provide the acid test. They can see through the frauds. What marks out of 10 did the children give Diana?
I think more than 10 out of 10. She seemed to respond to children all through her visit at the temple, whether they were older children or younger children. And particularly the younger children, she was drawn so much to them and very much at ease with them. That was very surprising. She seemed to endear herself to them, and as well as responding at their level. I think that's very unique about her. What I noticed was that she made good eye contact. She immediately, I remember one of the first things she said when she came to the children was, "Oh, she must find me very frightening. They must find me very frightening because I'm rather tall." And she was, and immediately she just went down. So despite the fact the media was saying, "Diana, stand up," she was so busy being at their level that the children responded very quickly to her.
All right, well, let me pop down to a more appropriate level here as well to talk to Yalpa. Are you all right?
Yes.
What did you make of her?
She was really pretty and kind.
Took the mickey out of you as well, though, didn't she? What did she say? What was about that badge you were wearing?
It was a monitor badge. She saw it and she told me that I wish I would have been a monitor when I was little.
She wanted to be, but she couldn't be.
She immediately started taking petals out, and not just giving them in their hands, but actually putting a few in each of the children's pockets. And the children responded beautifully. I mean, they started giving things back. A child had a book with him and started giving that to Diana. She said, "Do you want me to really have it?" And he said, "Yes, I read it yesterday night. Could you have?" And his name was Jalpish. So I think I should mention him.
All right. Well, everybody had a good memory.
Definitely.
And thank you very much for sharing them with us. Well, Diana's love of children and the theatre came together in her support for the Chicken Shed Theatre Company. Lucia Bellini and Robin Shillinglaw are both members of that company, and Diana was their royal patron. She took her responsibilities very seriously, frequently turning up for rehearsals, not just for the first nights. Now, we were talking about flowers a moment ago, Lucia. You wanted a flower as well when she came to see you on that occasion. Did you get one?
Yes, I did. It was when I was 7 years old, and it was my first show, and we performed in the Empire in Leicester Square. And after the show, Diana came and she spoke to me, and I said to her, "Are you Princess Diana?" And she said yes. And I said, "Well, I've been really looking forward to meeting you." And she made me touch her bouquet of flowers, and I was feeling them, and she said, "Oh, would you like one?" And I said, "Oh no, you keep them." And she said, "Oh, I've got hundreds," and she gave me one.
And of course you're partially sighted, and therefore she knew that straight away, and she knew how to cope with it.
Yes, she did.
Robin, how good was she at her job?
Well, she made everyone aware of lots of issues that are quite unpopular. So I think she brought attention to things that other people in her situation don't tend to as much.
Other members of the royal family?
Yeah.
Well, there's an object lesson in that. Lucia and Robin, thank you both very much indeed. We're learning this evening, or perhaps confirming, that Diana often developed permanent relationships with her charities and, of course, with those people involved in them. But our next guest, Ian Jackman, almost developed a personal relationship with her, because where she was, he was never far behind. Now, young man, a lesser person than Diana might have got a bit fed up with you.
Probably would have done, but I definitely weren't a stalker. I used to turn up at all engagements to see her with a group of friends, and we were part of her life, and as much as I was part of her.
Yeah.
She was, you know, either whatever.
Your most prized possession, which I think you have with you, is that catalogue there of the collection of dresses that she auctioned for charity. May I have it for a minute?
Yeah, of course. This was auctioned for charity. This is one of the ones that were auctioned, exactly the same.
Now tell me the circumstances in which that was signed.
Outside Christie's, I asked her if she could sign my catalogue for me, and she looked over her shoulder and she said, "No way," she said, "there's too many press." So she said, "But another time we will do it for you." About 2 weeks later, a friend of mine and myself were at Kensington Gore, opposite Kensington Palace, and we asked her to sign the catalogues, and she looked over her shoulder again and she said, "No, too many press." So I jokingly said to her, "Well, we're about across the road at Kensington Palace." She said, "Fine, I'll let the police box know you're coming over." And that was it. We sort of, as the car went past, she wound the window down. She said, "I'll see you in 10 minutes." And my friend Paul and myself went over to Kensington Palace to have a catalogue signed.
And just a few hours ago, you had some sensational news, didn't you?
I did. I was invited to go to a funeral. And that was a personal invitation from her sister, Sarah.
Good. Ian, thanks for coming along this evening. It's so evident, isn't it, to all of us here that Diana's greatest gift was the ability to talk to and to relate to anyone, young and old alike. And for one so young and so vibrant, she brought a very special magic to her meetings with the older members of our community. Tom Breen worked closely with Diana whilst she was patron of the Help the Aged charity. Tom, she was your patron for 11 years, terribly formal, royal patron. Did she ever catch you on the hop?
Oh, yes. We never knew when she was going to phone and say, "I want to come in." We had an occasion when it was very cold weather, and she actually rang and said she was coming in straight away. She was very concerned to actually know what was happening and to talk to the people who were suffering. And she would come in unannounced and would say, "I'm dropping the children off to school. I'll see you in an hour's time."
The other extraordinary thing is that she wasn't one simply to say, "Oh, something's got to be done about this." She was prepared to take it on and do it, wasn't she?
Absolutely. When I first met the Princess of Wales, she said to me, "Prove that you need me." And I had to get a lot of statistics out to show her that there was a need. Because I think there was a feeling that Help the Aged was a kind of forgotten charity in those days. Children and animals attract funds quite easily.
And what about when you needed a bit of equipment?
When I wanted equipment, I went to a home in Lancashire for Pakistani elderly people. And she walked around, and she would walk around on her own. She didn't want VIPs around her. And she came down and said, "Tom, can you do me a favour?" And I said, "Certainly, ma'am." She said, "Would you be kind enough to buy a microwave for elderly people and charge it to my account?" Which I did. And I went back to Lancashire, and I was treated as an envoy for Help the Aged.
She took special care of you when you were poorly as well, didn't she?
She did. We came to realise that there were 10 million elderly people in the country. And when I went into hospital to have a quadruple operation, a bypass, she not only sent a bottle of champagne, which I've still treasured, and she asked me why I hadn't drunk it when I met her lately. And I said I was waiting for a special occasion. And she said, "Surely a heart operation is a special occasion." but I intend drinking it at my 50th wedding anniversary next year.
Good for you, and some very special letters as well.
Yes.
Tom, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you for, on behalf of Help the Ages, thank you very much indeed.
Bless you. We've been talking about how many hours Diana put in behind the scenes at her favourite causes, but she also never underestimated just how powerful her public endorsement of a charity could be. In May last year, the Princess decided on this pose to grab the press attention for another worthy cause. As patron of Push 2000, a charity to beat paralysis with medical research, she supported the launch of this fundraising expedition. Simon Barnes was amongst the wheelchair-bound trio to set out on the 1,200-mile journey from John O'Groats to Land's End. It was the Princess's hope that by raising money and awareness now, research could help make wheelchairs a thing of the past. Well, Simon Barnes, who's from North London, made it from Land's End to John O'Groats, and he's here with us now. Simon, it's another simple truth, isn't it, that some folk find wheelchairs embarrassing, difficult to deal with, and they sometimes end up being condescending. How did she cope?
I think Diana wanted to touch the real issues behind a situation like paralysis and ask the kind of questions which some people don't really want to ask. You know, what are the real effects? How do you deal with those in your real life? And by doing that, managed to understand exactly what life was like being paralysed, and consequently, I think, enthused herself to try and help us find a way of getting a treatment.
And she wanted the boys to grasp that as well, didn't she?
Yes, she was always very keen to introduce the boys to disability as a fact of life, not a freak of nature. And on one occasion when we went to Kensington Palace, Prince Harry, who was around about 2 at the time, was in the palace and came out to see what was going on, and as with a lot of young children, found the wheelchair quite fascinating. And I asked him, would you like a ride on my lap? And he said yes, quite willingly, but other more official members of the party perhaps didn't really want that to happen, but he came on board and we had a quick wheelie around the garden of Kensington, which Princess Diana had no problem with.
I'll bet not. May I? Just for a moment.
Indeed.
And there. Dearest Simon, lots of love from Diana. Simon, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
At the beginning of this programme, I said that Diana's friends here in the studio were not the great and the good, nor were they famous, but we have made one exception. Esther Ranson, the chair and founder of the charity Childline, is with us. Esther, one thing that I think a lot of folk have been struck by is that 90% and more of the work was going on behind the scenes, away from the cameras. So sad it's taken us that long to realise.
Took me ages to realise, and it was only, I think, when I met a little girl called Bonnie Handel, who was dying of AIDS, and her family showed me the reply she'd got to a letter she'd written to the princess, which was 2 handwritten pages, plus a photograph like the one Simon's shown in a special frame with a coronet. And I suddenly thought, how much time has this woman put in? How much care? I mean, she took away with her the memory of the people that she met. She knew the difference she had made to their lives. She was determined that she would do everything she could to make them happier, and she kept in touch with them just for that reason. She was giving all the time.
The other staggering thing was the sheer scale of the interests. This evening, in just a very short period of time, we've talked about wheelchairs with Simon, we've talked about HIV, AIDS, we've talked about a little girl with leukemia and what have you. How did she manage to help so many people without spreading herself so thinly that it didn't matter? Because clearly it did.
I did once sit next to her brother Charles and ask him that question, how does she? Because I'd seen her at Childline talking to young people who'd been abused, again having this extraordinary insight.
And in itself, a terribly difficult thing.
A difficult thing, but once again, she knew exactly what to ask and how to respond. And she made them laugh, as we've heard in your programme, how she made people laugh. But he said, and I didn't understand it at the time, he said, I think because she has experienced pain herself, she has a sort of Geiger counter, a sort of insight into other people's pain. And maybe that was it, that when she came into the room, the first impression you saw was the fairy tale princess. I know it's a cliche, but it was true. So tall, so beautiful. She sort of radiated
everything that you expect a princess to be. But within that, those blue eyes just homed in on the pain in people's hearts, and she knew how to say the thing that would release the pain and start to heal it. And I've had letters this week from people who met her at Childline who said, I really feel she started my process of healing with the things she asked me, the things she said to me that day.
Final point is whether it was Tom at Help the Aged or Holly, 4 years old in hospital, it was that perfect word, that perfect observation.
And that wonderful smile and that touch of the hand, that physical thing that made you understand that she was with you in spirit, that her heart was with yours.
Esther, thanks very much for coming in. And indeed, thanks to everyone who's been here this afternoon to share their memories of Diana. I'll be with you again in half an hour when I'll be bringing you more reports and reactions on today's quite remarkable events. But until then, from all of us here to all of you, very good evening.
Baker, ITN. And we go now to Helen Wright at Buckingham Palace. Helen, you were there among the crowd this afternoon. What was it like?
Quite real buzz here. And when the Queen's car pulled up and she stepped out, as you probably heard in Colin's package, she was greeted by thunderous applause. And I know as the Queen has walked among people here, she's told them she's very sorry they've had to wait to see her and how much she's appreciated them being here. I know one person really impressed upon the Queen and said, please, please look after Princes William and Harry, and she told them that she would. And she also shared with the crowd how difficult it had been for the young princes to cope with this terrible situation.
And the weather suddenly changed. Did it make a difference?
Didn't make any difference. A really heavy downpour, but the crowds were not put off at all. They're determined to stay here.
Thank you, Helen. Coming up in this specially extended early evening news, live from Buckingham Palace, the Queen speaks soon. Burial on the island in the lake, the last resting place for the princess. And saying it with flowers, 1 million farewells from the public. It was announced today that the princess will now be buried on an island in a lake on the Althorpe estate. Her brother, Earl Spencer, said he had decided to move the burial place from the family chapel, which is outside the grounds, to allow her sons privacy when they visited. Eric McInnes reports from Althorpe.
The gates of Althorpe, the destination of so many mourners, and behind which we now know the princess will finally be laid to rest. It is here, on this island, in the centre of the estate's ornamental lake, that Princess Diana's coffin will be brought tomorrow afternoon. It is the family wish that she be buried here, a place of serene beauty, where her relatives, in particular her 2 young sons, can come in privacy and pay their respects. For 150 years, members of the family have planted trees here, including Princes William and Harry. While 20 generations have been buried in the village church, the decision is a break with Spencer tradition, a unique arrangement allowing Princess Diana to rest on the estate.
I think it's the right decision for privacy for the princes.
I think that it's good. I think that they should be allowed some private time.
Today, roads were being closed in preparation. Large crowds are expected to line the route up to the gates. There, her coffin will slip from public gaze forever. But the family are making plans to allow visitors at designated times in the future. Anticipating the public need, the Spencer family are also considering erecting a memorial outside the gates so that people can come and pay tribute whenever they wish. Eric McInnes, ITN, Althorpe.
The scale of the country's grief was given scope today by the news that an estimated 1 million bouquets of flowers have been laid outside the 3 royal palaces. Thousands more people queued to sign the books of condolence, their last chance until after tomorrow's funeral. Andrew Simmons reports.
The pale mass of flowers, which dwarfs the hundreds of people surrounding it,
solemnly marks out a capital like no other in the world this evening. It started with a few flowers before the gates of Kensington Palace at the top edge of this vast garden of remembrance. Now all approach roads are smothered by bouquets. And here the sweetly scented carpet laid before Buckingham Palace. On this 6th day of public mourning, even bigger crowds converged on London, with tributes reflected right across the nation in similar gestures. So many found it impossible to absorb from pictures and words what has been going on. And that is perhaps why such a vast number have impulsively headed for London to join in with their own personal tributes. And amongst the people, it is still hard to take in the enormity of it all. Outside the 3 royal palaces, more than 1 million bouquets have been laid. A Buckingham Palace spokesman says all of the flowers will remain in place over the weekend. After that, it's yet to be decided where they'll be taken to. But every single message will be collected and passed on. So many were still waiting to sign the 43 books of condolence at St. James's Palace that officials decided at lunchtime to close 5 hours earlier than planned. The books will be reopened for signing tomorrow afternoon at Kensington Palace. This morning, hundreds awoke from a cold night sleeping on the streets, their way of getting close to a funeral which will be like no other. This the scene a short distance from Westminster Abbey. As with every day of this week, flowers will be in abundance tomorrow, despite stocks at florists coming close to depletion. Massive consignments have been flown in from abroad. Few can gauge how they will cope with emotions tomorrow, as the spontaneous acts which have been so overwhelming this week are channeled into the sad formality of Saturday. Andrew Simmons, ITN, Central London.
It was revealed today that Princess Diana's coffin will be moved by hearse from the Chapel Royal at St James's Palace to her home at Kensington Palace at around 8 o'clock tonight. Then tomorrow morning, timed with military precision, she'll be carried on a gun carriage for the 2-hour journey to Westminster Abbey. John Draper reports.
This is the gun carriage on top of which the princess's coffin will be placed for tomorrow's funeral cortege. This afternoon the carriage was still in 2 pieces. The section on the right will be where the horses will be harnessed. Soldiers of the King's Troop are making last-minute preparations. They accompanied Churchill and Mountbatten's funerals. Tomorrow will be especially demanding.
Uppermost in their minds will be the fact that they're taking part in a tremendous expression of the nation's sadness.
Tomorrow the princess's coffin will be placed on this simple oak board on top of the gun carriage. It'll be draped with the royal standard. At the front, 3 pairs of horses will draw the gun carriage, each pair controlled by 1 rider. These soldiers have undertaken similar ceremonials in the past, but never with such sadness. John Draper, ITN, with the Royal Horse Artillery.
Elton John, who will be singing at Princess Diana's funeral, led tributes to her at the MTV Music Awards in New York last night. In a separate interview on American television, he said it was tragic that she would never know just how highly the public regarded her. John Irvine reports.
Here in New York, the music industry congratulated the superstars of British popular music, who in turn paid tribute to Diana, the popular princess. When Elton John appeared, he announced that some of the proceeds from this event would go towards the Princess Diana Memorial Fund.
In fact, $100,000 has been set aside to help support the AIDS charities to which Diana so generously donated her time, her energies and her love.
In July, at the funeral of Gianni Versace, the princess comforted the singer. Now for her, the singer has rewritten his most famous song.
Seems to me you lived your life like a candle in the wind, never knowing who to cling to when the rain set in.
Goodbye, England's Rose. Your candle burned out long before your legend ever will. So it's 3 verses about her, and it's a beautiful lyric.
In New York, Elton John has spoken for the music industry. Tomorrow he will sing for the world, and perhaps the biggest audience it has ever known. John Irvine, ITN, New York.
And Elton John has now flown back to this country. Today he was at Westminster Abbey, where he was rehearsing for his performance during the funeral. Tomorrow he was visited by the Blairs, The Prime Minister is reading a lesson at tomorrow's funeral, and Elton John will be singing the song Goodbye England's Rose, adapted from the song he wrote for Marilyn Monroe, new words dedicated to Princess Diana, which he'll perform tomorrow. The Fayed family today revealed that Princess Diana had given Dodi 2 special gifts during their 5-week relationship. One was a set of cufflinks belonging to her father, the late Earl Spencer. The other, a gold cigar clipper with the message, "With love from Diana." A Harrods spokesman said the cufflinks were the last gift the princess had received from her father, and that it would give him, she told Dodi, great joy to know they were in safe and special hands. A reminder again that in a few minutes we'll be bringing you the live tribute by the Queen to Princess Diana. But first we move on to today's other main news. The crisis in Israel has intensified. The Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, ruled out handing over any more land to the Palestinians until there was a crackdown on Islamic militants. It follows the killing early this morning of 12 Israeli commandos in southern Lebanon and yesterday's suicide bombings in Jerusalem. Hugh Pym reports.
It was the Israeli army's bloodiest clash in Lebanon for 12 years. The Marine commandos were killed during an operation north of the city of Tyre, just outside a 9-mile deep security zone established by the Israelis. Troops occupied the area with the aim of protecting northern Israel from guerrilla attacks. The clash, which left 11 commandos dead and a 12th missing, was the second trauma for Israel in 24 hours. The Prime Minister, responding to yesterday's bombing in Jerusalem and the casualties in Lebanon, said he would not bow to terrorism.
We are absolutely committed to resist these terrorists, and we believe that with our resolve and our commitment, we will achieve the secure peace that our people deserve.
But with scores injured and 4 dead after yesterday's suicide bombing in a West Jerusalem shopping mall, the peace process in the Middle East has been severely battered. Hugh Pym, ITN.
Well, in a few moments, the Queen will be giving her live tribute to Princess Diana. But first, I'm joined in the studio by our royal correspondent, Nicholas Owen. Nick, the Queen is making what has been called the most important broadcast of her life. What should we look out for in it?
Well, I think it is undoubtedly the most important, certainly the most testing, live, as you say, many years since she did a TV broadcast in that way. First of all, officials say it will be from the heart. In other words, very much last-minute things in it, I think. She will draw almost certainly, I think, on personal experiences this very afternoon. We also saw those extraordinary scenes outside Buckingham Palace and St James's Palace when she met some among the big crowd there. And she will refer directly to that, I think. She was said, incidentally, by some witnesses to be quite tearful and upset. She may quote, I think, what 1 or 2 people said to her. It's just possible that she will recall their words. I think it is quite likely she will mention by name the Princes William and Harry and her great concern that their interests and problems should come first in this. And finally, yes, a tribute to Diana, but the point is everybody will be very closely examining exactly what she does say when it comes to that passage.
Well, that speech in just under a minute, but first, another important event tonight, Nick.
Yes, the coffin of Diana, Princess of Wales, will move at about 8 o'clock from St James's Palace, where it's been lying in the Chapel Royal, to head back to Kensington Palace. It may be a few minutes after 8 o'clock, but we think it's around that time. And it will be taken to Kensington Palace, where the extended funeral begins tomorrow. It won't go back exactly the same way as it comes tomorrow, if you see what I mean. There's one diversion. It will go straight along Knightsbridge and Kensington Road and not in the park. But it is a sort of preview, I suppose, of the funeral tomorrow.
Thank you, Nick. Well, in just a few seconds from now, the Queen makes her broadcast live from Buckingham Palace. We cross now live to Buckingham Palace for the Queen's tribute to Princess Diana.
Since last Sunday's dreadful news, we have seen throughout Britain and around the world an overwhelming expression of sadness at Diana's death. We have all been trying in our different ways to cope. It is not easy to express a sense of loss, since the initial shock is often succeeded by a mixture of other feelings: disbelief, incomprehension, anger, and concern for those who remain. We have all felt those emotions in these last few days.
So what I say to you now, as your Queen and as a grandmother, I say from my heart. First, I want to pay tribute to Diana myself. She was an exceptional and gifted human being. In good times and bad, she never lost her capacity to smile and laugh, nor to inspire others with her warmth and kindness. I admired and respected her for her energy and commitment to others, and especially for her devotion to her two boys. This week at Balmoral, we have all been trying to help William and Harry come to terms with the devastating loss that they and the rest of us have suffered. No one who knew Diana will ever forget her. Millions of others who never met her, but felt they knew her, will remember her. I, for one, believe there are lessons to be drawn from her life and from the extraordinary and moving reaction to her death. I share in your determination to cherish her memory. This is also an opportunity for me, on behalf of my family, and especially Prince Charles and William and Harry, to thank all of you who have brought flowers, sent messages, and paid your respects in so many ways to a remarkable person. These acts of kindness have been a huge source of help and comfort. Our thoughts are also with Diana's family and the families of those who died with her. I know that they too have drawn strength from what has happened since last weekend, as they seek to heal their sorrow and then to face the future without a loved one. I hope that tomorrow we can all, wherever we are, join in expressing our grief at Diana's loss and gratitude for her all too short life. It is a chance to show to the whole world the British nation united in grief and respect. May those who died rest in peace, and may we, each and every one of us, thank God for someone who made many, many people happy.
The Queen speaking live from Buckingham Palace. Nick Owen, an obviously emotional broadcast by the Queen.
Yes, John. We were promised it would be from the heart. It very clearly was. I don't think we have ever heard the Queen like that. We've never seen the Queen like that. She didn't stumble. You could hear the crowd noise outside, those huge crowds. I mean, that was something that struck me. And the things she said, and the tribute to Diana, exceptional and gifted human being, she said. And the Queen shared the admiration and respect of people everywhere for her. And she did talk so much about William and Harry, the two boys.
And it was quite interesting. We've never seen her in that setting with, as you said, the crowd behind her. There was obviously a reason for that.
Yes, I think so. The Queen wanted to, not just the words, but wanted the whole environment to be obvious that she was sharing the nation's grief. And I don't think anybody seeing that anywhere in the world will have any doubt that that grief is totally, totally genuine. Whatever has happened in that family, which has happened in almost every family in the land anyway, no doubt at all that it is very, very, felt very, very deeply for her. And she kept coming back to this point about the needs of the boys. And she talked about this business of being up at Balmoral. There's been a lot of criticism of that. Where's our Queen, the newspaper said. Well, the answer came from the Queen's own lips today. They've been helping William and Harry come to terms with their loss.
As you say, that there has been criticism that they were at Balmoral. This speech was specifically designed to answer that criticism. Do you think it will succeed?